Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. Going to go live here in about 30 seconds.
Okay. Let me
Good,
just
w-
my
good
list.
weekend.
Yeah, all good. No complaints.
Could have used an extra day like last week.
You're all for the 4-day weekend.
I like those.
Hmm.
Miles isn't feeling well, so not the best night's sleep last night.
Oh gosh.
I know. Stand by.
Big news. I have some important news for you.
Interesting news.
It's Blake and Darren's Spilling the Tea with Sandy.
Cayman's top news headlines of the day from CMR.
Well, good morning, Sandy. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Blake. I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
Good. Did you have a good weekend? Nice weekend.
Yes, it was pretty good. No complaints.
What do we got in the way of headlines for a Monday?
Wow. So Friday afternoon, there
Mhm.
was a very interesting situation. So the Cayman authorities actually arrested a man who is wanted for murder in Jamaica.
What?
He is a gang leader.
Wow.
And yes, a very dangerous one at that from the Spanish Town area. And apparently he is wanted in Jamaica for what they say is multiple murders and other criminal activity.
And
he
how did he get here?
Well, the same way that all illegal people come here by boat. So yes, those canoes transport a lot more than just drugs.
So it makes you wonder what he might have been doing here. What was on the agenda?
Well, hiding out from the authorities, I suppose.
Hmm.
But yeah, what next would have been the question, really. So
Wow.
we'll be chasing up that story and discussing that a bit later on this morning.
So it's still in custody, I would imagine, and then there'll be maybe some sort of extradition or something. How does that work?
Yeah, he has been handed over to CBC.
Oh,
So
I see.
I think we will have to wait and see what happens from there. But yes. And other interesting news, there was a shooting over the weekend. A house was shot at in Prospect. And exclusive CMR sources say that it's related to an event that happened early in the night, a street vibes party. And there was some incident there where someone's vehicle got damaged. And so, guns were pulled out at that event.
What?
And, yeah. And then this person's house got shot at because I guess they thought he might have been involved in the situation.
Wow.
Oh, it's crazy.
Hmm.
Some weekends are crazy. Army Hammer. Did we cover,
Yeah.
did we cover this last week? I don't feel like we got to this, but
Well, we covered the first part of the story. Now there's like a second part.
well, what's the second part? Because he's not working at people keep saying this, and I think what's fueling this information.
Well, there was a story about Army Hammer working as a concierge at Moritz.
Yeah, and then one said he was working in timeshares.
Yes, and then so there was another story then that so now there was a picture of him wearing a polo for like Moritz, or I can't really see a logo on it, but he's wearing a blue polo, sitting at a desk, and they're saying that he's selling timeshares for Moritz.
Well, from what we've been able to ascertain, of course, we haven't spoken to Army Hammer, so we don't know firsthand, but he has made a statement. He said no, that, he's got friends that work at the resort. And so they did a little poster of him saying that he worked there. And I guess they all thought it was kind of funny. It was just a joke, and he's not working in the Cayman Islands. Because, of course, that wouldn't be good. Because remember, his wife was working here illegally. And I think the company she worked for got fined.
Yeah, I remember that.
In the shade of fine. So hopefully they get the picture by now. That doesn't matter if you're a celebrity or who you are. You're not permitted to work.
Well, he grew up here, though. I'm pretty sure he has staff.
Does he have... Really?
I'm pretty sure, yeah. Yeah, his parents live here. He grew up here and went to school here as a kid.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'd want confirmation from...
I'm sure he could work at Moritz if he wanted to. Maybe he's bored.
But yeah, I'm not really sure that he is actually working here. So, with the information that we have gotten from his sources speaking to other media in the U.S. is that it was just a joke. not working in the Cayman Islands.
So what if he is? Maybe the guy's bored between movies.
A former governor of the Cayman Islands, Michael Gore, has passed away. So on Friday, condolences were sent out from both the premier's office and the governor's office. So he was governor here in the Cayman Islands from 1992 until 1995. And so,
Wow.
yeah, may he rest in peace.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, sorry.
You okay?
Yeah. In regional news, this is kind of a wild story, but a man in Jamaica, remember the first monkeypox case in Jamaica? He took off on Saturday afternoon to make a run for it.
What do you mean, make a run for it?
He was in the hospital, you know?
Okay, he's not under arrest. I mean, monkeypox, though. He's sick.
Yeah, so he literally left the facility without authorization, and the police were looking for him in Jamaica and sent out, I guess all points bulletin saying we need this man back in custody. So now there's he's got like a different version of a story. He's claiming the authorities are lying. So we're going to piece it all together. And we have the inside track because we know people at the Maypen Hospital. So we'll be able to tell you exactly what went down. So that was making regional news as well. And a large quantity, finally, of jewelry was stolen from a Georgetown store. So the police are investigating what they say is a jewelry theft, where thieves made off with a large amount of jewelry after midnight on July the 8th, somewhere around right before 12:20 a.m. The alarm went off on Goring Avenue, and the officers showed up. And apparently they went right through the front entrance, smashing the front doors, where several cases containing jewelry was taken.
Is this during opening hours or
No, this is in the early morning hours.
Because usually they clear all those out and put them in a safe.
Yeah, it is unusual that a jewelry store wouldn't have done that. So yeah,
inside deal.
Something seems a bit strange. Yes, they don't put that stuff in a safe. But there you go. Those are your news headlines today.
All right, catch Sandy's show right now for the Monday edition.
Karen? She's still working remotely?
Yeah, she's gone until August 30th.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, she's on that's whole summer. She's gone for the whole summer.
Oh my gosh.
So she'll be Skyping in after our segment's over. Can't have two people on at the same time. So
all right.
Sorry. That's such a cute sneeze.
On that note, have a great day.
That's Sandy on Bobo 89.1 FM, and we'll see you tomorrow for the Tuesday headlines. Sorry, this segment brought to you exclusively
peppermint, sorrel, ginger, fever grass, or English. Peppermint, sorrel, ginger, fever grass, or English. Get it ready. Your morning tea just got hotter.
Ooh, honey child.
On the cold, hard truth. Bobo 89.1 and Cayman's #1 talk show are bringing you morning talk like no one else. Monday Rewind, Impact Wednesdays, Caribbean Connections, and much more. Don't miss a beat with what's happening in the local community. Just keep sipping your tea.
What a mess.
Here's your host, live and direct from the Cayman Islands, Sandy Hill.
Folks, good morning, Cayman. Rise and shine. It is Monday morning. Hello. Happy Monday. How are you guys doing? Let me get the studio phone ready. Had to charge it up. Oops. Had to charge it up last night. Well, it's not 100%, but it'll do. 936-BOBO is the telephone number. Feel free to call in at any time. This is your show, folks. And we've been receiving some absolutely positive and wonderful feedback on the program. So thank you all so much for that. And we got a lot to talk about today. Whoa-wee, what a mess. Well, you know how we do it here on the Cold Hard Truth. We make sure we find our manners first thing in the morning. So good morning to Marshall. Good morning, Edesbel. Is that right? Edesbel. Olivia's here. Felicia. Hortense saying good morning to you all. Miss Iva wishing everyone a blessed day. Diamond Princess has got it locked. Jonathan is here. Trying to find a more comfortable method for my headset. Oh, by the way, let me send this to my WhatsApp group. So, we have a WhatsApp news group. Don't forget, you can join at any time. And we basically send out all of the alerts to you so you get it directly in your WhatsApp messages. So you get it direct, just in case you miss something, because sometimes you miss something on social media. And so it's really breaking news, right? Jonathan, good morning. He says Army's grandfather lives here. Does that necessarily mean that he has status? Not necessarily. But, I don't know if he does or not. Good morning, Jonathan. Sophia, so good to see you. Emma is here. She's wishing everyone a happy and blessed Monday morning. So good to see you, Emma. We've got Damaris also joining us. Evelyn. She says, Aaron and I are on a long vacation and loving it. Well, girl, I don't know when you're coming back, but at least we know when Aaron's coming back. Evelyn is just, where are you now? You were in the UK and then you went to where afterwards? She's enjoying a European vacation. Very, very nice. It's nice that people are able to get back to some degree of normalcy when traveling, but y'all still need to be careful now. Still wear your mask. Still go out there and do your little thing. So Jonathan says that Army went to prep school. Okay, well, that still doesn't mean he has the right to work. We know people who are born here, who live here, and still don't have any any residency or status. So they're like on somebody's work permit or whatever. But let's assume he does. That still doesn't mean he's actually working at the resort. He's told officials, U.S. media, that he isn't. I think the TMZ story was just never updated. And so, people still think that he's working here. So the Daily Mail claims that he is working as a timeshare salesman after denying he's a resort concierge. Okay. So there's a few people still picking up this story that he is actually working in timeshares. And they claim that they have a video to back it up. Shaw, he's the least of our worries. Ingrid, good morning. Good morning to Mr. George. Mumbo says, hola. Hola, Johannes. Mr. Hero Blair is here. You're in Jamaica at the moment. You went from the USA to Jamaica. It says it's getting pretty warm in Jamaica already. Yeah, it's hot. It is hot in Cayman, let me tell you. Morning, Tracy. Alric Rankin says good morning and then wishes everyone a blessed day to all. Evelyn is now in Greece. Wow, what a thing. Zambula says, let's hear about this murder. Oh, yes, it's coming up. It is coming up, my dear. Good morning to Sharon. And good morning to Jose. He says, morning, Caymanians. Well, Jose, good morning to you as well. And good morning to everyone, whether you're a Caymanian or not. We actually have a lot of people who listen to the program who are not Caymanians. This is sort of an interesting tidbit of information. We have that Tower Marketing Report. That's how we know. And what is really interesting about our listenership, y'all might be surprised to know this, but our listenership is very diverse. So we have a lot of Caymanians that listen, but we also were the only radio station, well, we weren't even on air then, but we were the only talk show that actually had almost a split diversification. Is that a word? Diversification. I don't know if diversification is a word, but it sounds pretty good. So yes, so we actually have, quite interestingly enough, almost like a 50-50 split. Caymanians, they did like Caymanians, Jamaicans, and then everybody else, because we have a large Jamaican population. And we were the only talk show that had like an even number of almost Caymanians evenly with Jamaicans and everybody else. But the vast majority of people who do listen to us are Caymanian. And of course, in addition to that, we had more women who listened to the program than men, which I always thought was kind of interesting. But I think now that we're on radio, that's going to change a little bit. Yeah, we'll keep an eye on it. We still have to go through that tower marketing report. I'm hoping maybe this week or next week we can get to it. But something is always happening that kind of eclipses, that. So let's talk about this murder guy that's hanging out in the Cayman Islands. So first of all, it's a little bit disturbing that we would have someone, and it's no shock to me. I mean, I don't know who's shocked, but to hear that we have had someone, a big time murder in Jamaica, come ashore in the Cayman Islands is no surprise to me. But it speaks to how poor of a job we are doing with securing our borders. That is also no surprise to me. And this is one area in which we have got to step it up, right? So let's talk about the details of the specifics of what we know about this case and who this individual is. We've got exclusive CMR video footage of this man. And in addition to that, the authorities have told us just a little bit. Luis, good morning. Good morning, Aliano. Zambula says, yes, Sandra, it's poor and it's sad. So we just got to do better, because this is a security risk, but we're going to talk about why we know that this is nothing new. All right, so here's the, let me get the video for you guys. Hold on one second. So we've got several pieces of video. First of all, it made news in Jamaica. So let's have a look at what they were saying about the whole situation.
A reputed gang leader said to be behind the recent flare-up of violence in Spanish Town, St. Catherine, has been captured in the Cayman Islands. The suspect, who goes by the alias Baxter, was nabbed by the Caymanian authorities today. A senior investigator told our news center that Baxter was placed on the police's most wanted list following the recent spate of shootings and murders in Homestead, 31 Johns Road and Tallspen. The suspect, who is said to be the leader of the Wildlife Gang, was also being sought in connection with the murder of the mother of a policeman in Old Harbour, St. Catherine.
So apparently this is one bad dude. And he is alleged to be involved in a number of gang activities in Jamaica. The name of his gang is Wildlife Gang. I don't know where they come up with these names, but anyway. So yes, wow. They say that he is responsible for a number of things. So he goes by the name Baxter. That's his, every Jamaican gangster has more than one name. They have an alias. They call him everything from Indian Foot to Chicken Bat, Screwy to, I'm just making these names up, but of course, this is, this is what it is, right? So when you are when you're a criminal, obviously you don't come in with on Cayman Airways with your papers. Most of them probably don't even have a proper passport or travel document. So that's not exactly how it works. So what you do is you come in through a method that has been proven over and over again to work extremely well. You jump in a Jamaican canoe. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I was telling you guys how people are all up in arms when we mentioned that there was a canoe that was abandoned I got some footage here I'm going to share with you guys, and North Side, and that it was a Jamaican canoe. And I don't know what was wrong with you all, but some of you were really up in your feelings about it. Oh, how do you know it was a Jamaican canoe? Oh, Sandy, blah, 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 blah. And I'm here to tell you, it was a Jamaican canoe, and this is how this man came into the country, just like other criminals have come into this country by boat. It is our weakest link when it comes to securing our borders. I think we do somewhat of a decent job with the official ports of entry. So like the airport, I don't know about the Port Authority, child. I can't speak for them these days. But let's just keep it to the airport and the cruise ships. I suppose criminals get off the cruise ships every day, but they're also getting back on. So we make sure that that they leave. But these drug boats, these canoe boats, and yes, they're coming from Jamaica. If you're insulted by that, that means that you are just misinformed. And I can't take, any responsibility for you feeling away because you're misinformed. It is what it is. Right? It isn't about us trying to make Jamaica look bad. It's about, well, if this is how they're coming in, then this is how they're coming in. And if we can't even have a real conversation about how people are coming into our country, then how do we hope to address it? So the point that I've always made, and this is why it's really, really disturbing when I hear people say, oh yeah, let the drugs come in, what's the big deal? We're all for marijuana and whatever else is coming in these boats. People clearly do not understand the full scope of what it is that we are dealing with. I'm just trying to get this other footage ready for you guys to see this young man. And what it is that we are dealing with. And quite frankly, why it remains a very precarious and dangerous situation. This is not the first time we have had a murderer or a gangster or serious criminal come in on one of these boats. So these boats bring drugs. They bring weapons. That's one way, the primary way, in fact, in which weapons are being brought in to the Cayman Islands. So a lot of y'all were shocked the other day when we found out that we had some kind of automatic weapon in this jurisdiction that young men used to go shoot up the place. I wasn't really surprised because I know, again, that on those boats, all sorts of stuff is being brought in. So only God knows what exactly that entails. But you can rest assured that if it's illegal and they want to get it into the Cayman Islands, they're using these canoe boats to do so. And so you can probably get just about any weapon you want in Jamaica. Their port of transport is, their method of transporting it into their country is primarily Haiti. But they have enough weapons there to share with us if y'all think that that's a problem. In the past, we have had, I'm just trying to remind you guys of the history, because again, people seem to not recall a lot of things, but in the past, we have had situations where our borders allowed, through these illegal canoe boats, hitmen essentially to come in to the Cayman Islands. Now, y'all know this because there's been a couple murders that have been just downloading this video here for us, that have actually been linked to someone in Cayman paying somebody in Jamaica, come on in, and I want you to take out this other gangster sort of situation. And they've done it. They've come in, they've committed robberies, committed murders, got back on a canoe boat and left. And my sources have indicated that for about, I guess it depends on who's bringing you in, $3,000 to $4,000, you can secure a voyage on one of these boats, and they can pretty much give you whatever you want. We have also had people come in from other jurisdictions. So you guys might remember that we reported exclusively, in fact, about this Bahamian man who landed illegally in the Cayman Islands. He was hanging out with people in Bordentown. Let me pull up the story because you guys might not remember this one. And he was also was he from the Bahamas? Hold on. He was also a murderer wanted in another jurisdiction. And he'd actually been here for some time. And when we started to investigate his record, this guy is one bad dude. So hold on now. So we had in 2017, this isn't the guy that I'm thinking of, but this is another one. Jamaica's most wanted, O'Brien Ellis, arrested in Cayman. Y'all remember this one? I'm just helping you to remember, because the whole point here, folks, is if you're not understanding by now that our borders are in trouble, like in a real way, and whoever's in charge of securing our borders are not doing a good job. And I don't want anybody to take that personal, but it is what it is, right? So if you're taking that personal this morning, that means that you probably need to do a better job. It's as simple as that. So this dude, we didn't have the best picture of him, but here he is. This was August of 2017. Now remember, folks, that would have mean that CMR had just gotten started in July of 2017. And this is what we were reporting on almost immediately. Because once again, this is nothing new. So there was him. Let me find the other guy. I'm trying to remember his name. Or was it Barbados? Where was he from? He was a fugitive. Hold on. Let's see if I can find him, because he's one that's a little bit more recent. So the O'Brien guy, 29 years old. Guess what his alias is? I told y'all they always have these amazing aliases, right? His alias is Joe Grind. I tell y'all, you can't make this stuff up. You really can't. Joe Grind. So he was wanted by the authorities for murder as well. Imagine. Wow. So he was wanted for the arson and murder of a 44-year-old man who was a chef of Farm Pen after dispute in December of 2016. So one thing they know is if things are hot in Jamaica and you need to get away, you come to the Cayman Islands. And you were able, and I'm going to tell you how they're able to do this, because we do need to have this conversation as well this morning, folks. You're able to hang out in the Cayman Islands and go under radar for quite some time. So this dude was arrested on August 18th for illegal landing and possession of ganja with intent to supply. So he came here right away. Hanging out in Windsor Park. So in his case, there was a joint operation carried out by Immigration, Customs, and the police at the time, resulted in a drug bust in Windsor Park, where several packages of ganja were found. And in addition to that, they picked up this man who shot another man twice at point blank range over a dispute involving his younger brother. And then I think he set the house or the man or something on fire as well. Let me see if I can find the other one. Oh gosh, what was his name again? This guy. Oh, here he is. Got him. February of 2020. Here we go. He's actually a cop shooter. Ay, folks. We bring him in all right. I don't know. Is this guy still here Do we still have him in court with him fighting over his rights in our court system? Another illegal fugitive who shot and injured 3 police officers in the United States has been found living in the Cayman Islands after several months. This is what CMR reported back in February of 2020. Wendell Stewart, he's a Guyanese national. Aha. I was thinking Bahamas. Guyanese. Came into the Cayman Islands via where? Jamaica in late November or early December. We don't even know. And then he was picked up in February, so he was here for a number of months. This dude, quite ironically enough, arrived on a commercial flight. So I just said that I think we're getting it right with our commercial flights, but maybe not all the time, because he actually arrived in a commercial flight under his own name. He traveled to the Bahamas, then Barbados, and onto Jamaica before entering the Cayman Islands. He's also wanted in his own country, Guyana, for serious drug trafficking offenses. He was described in court papers as a dangerous criminal and Bloods street gang member who was convicted of drug trafficking, carjackings, and robberies. When he was only 19 years old, he opened fire on 3 police officers during a car theft from a moving vehicle. So the US kind of messed up. And this is where, it's so funny that sometimes we sit back and we rely on other people to do our job for us, and we really shouldn't. Right? So he was a non-citizen. He was sentenced to only 3 years of probation for the shootings. Imagine. And the judge did not inform ICE of his immigration status. So that permitted him to remain in the US for another 10 years. And of course, in that time, he continued being, a criminal. That was his profession, I guess. So in 2006, he was indicted for various carjackings. And he also shot a man, a 21-year-old man, in the chest while exiting a New Jersey transit bus in East Orange, New Jersey. He had a 22-count indictment returned against him for drug trafficking to an undercover police officer, but once again, he was released. So sometimes the system doesn't work in America either. And he continued. In 2008, he was booked for brutally assaulting a police officer. He doesn't seem to like police. Let's just put it that way. And possession of a 9mm Colt semi-automatic handgun, 16 rounds of live ammunition, including a hollow point bullet. Now, y'all know, if you know anything about, I'm sure you've watched TV, if you know anything about these weapons, like a hollow point weapon or bullet, the reason why you use those is to, for the most part, target police and anyone who might be trying to protect themselves with things like a bulletproof vest and so on. So that's what he was up to. All right. As it turns out, that he's actually believed to have been involved in several murders, but because he is an alleged informant for the authorities, he kept getting away with it. Interesting. So he was finally incarcerated on that last offense in 2008. Whilst incarcerated, he was also indicted for obtaining a cell phone and making threats from his prison cell. So it says that he was an informant for the Newark Federal Bureau of Investigation. And so that's why he probably got away with a lot of things that he did. So he was basically informing on his other gang members so that they could get arrested. But then they discovered that he was actually lying to them. He was falsely informing on others. What the hell? An informant doesn't even tell you the truth. So he was eventually deported back to Guyana and continued, I guess, his criminal activity until he eventually decided to go to Jamaica and then enter the Cayman Islands. So that's another example of a hardcore criminal being picked up in Cayman who landed, well, they say his was an illegal entry, but I'm sort of thinking if he came through the airport, how did he land illegally? Like I was never really clear on that. Now, I don't know. I need to ask, I'm going to ask some of my sources in CBC if he's still here, because what ends up happening is these guys go to court and we end up, let me see now. We end up, allowing them to use legal aid, the court system. They get the best attorneys in Cayman fighting for their rights to be able to remain here and remain in a prison that to them is a joke. Of course, he wouldn't mind a Cayman prison. And I know that what CBC tries to do is, if they can, they try to get rid of these guys as quickly as possible. So let me try to find out if he's still here. Someone says maybe he had a false passport and that's how he landed illegally. Let me see. I did see him in court a couple times that he actually went for mentions and stuff like that. So suffice it to say, we're not doing a great job at securing our borders, and we haven't for quite some time. And I think that somebody needs to start answering to some of these concerns. So let me show you the video now. Somebody sent me this video from this latest guy, Wildlife Gang. This is him, I guess, hanging out somewhere in Jamaica with some of his friends.
Unemployed male of that address will be either 31st of the 5th, 64. You're told that the truth probably will go to the police here at emergency. We are well documented their growth from time to time. Unemployed male of that address will be either 31st of the 5th, 64. You're told that the truth probably will go to the police here at emergency. We are well documented their growth from time to time.
All right, so that's him hanging out with his friends, I guess, in Jamaica. But the interesting thing here, folks, is, he's said to be involved in some very, very serious offenses at Spanish Town, St. Catherine. They say that there's been a flare-up of violence in that area, and he is in charge of the gang that is responsible for that. He was placed in Jamaica's most wanted list following the shooting and murders in Homestead, 31 St. John's Road, and is it Taw's Pen? The suspect is said to be the leader of the Wildlife Gang, and he's also sought in connection with the murder of the mother of a police officer in Old Harbor, St. Catherine. Several warrants issued for his arrest. You know what is so strange? Whenever you read about this stuff in the Jamaican news, like they don't even mention his real name. They're just like, oh, Baxter, Cowfoot, chicken leg. It's like, what's the guy's real name? But anyway, The name of his gang is called Wildlife Gang. Yes? So this is trending and making news all over the region that Cayman has miraculously managed to grab him. He was picked up in the industrial park area. We had some footage there of the police car nabbing him, running into that black car, following a helicopter and car chase, and was handed over to CBC. Out of curiosity, where does CBC actually keep these guys? I'm assuming they hand them back to the police. Like, what's their detention center? But there's another man also on the loose. So it says here that the suspect gang leader and another man reportedly tried to evade Caymanian police, but officers rammed the car the men were in, preventing them from driving away. Good job. Now listen, we have got to give the RCIPS their applause when they do something good. Because Lord knows, they could have not captured him and made him get away. So the other man is still on the loose as far as we know. I don't think they've gotten him yet. And I know that the police were out and about quite heavily for, at least in West Bay, there was like multiple cars after like 4:30ish going into the 5 o'clock hour. There's about 4 or 5 police cars, some part of the firearm response unit running up and down all over West Bay. The helicopters were out as well. And so they need to find this other man. But my thing is this: why don't we have an all points bulletin out for this other man? Why don't we know anything about who he is? Why is his picture not plastered all over the place? All right, I just gave the RCIPS an applause. Let's give them another applause before we start to ask questions of where I need Jesus to help me have it make sense. Right? Let's give them one more applause. You caught a criminal. Thank you. But why don't we have a picture of the other guy? Do we not know who he is? Do we not have any intel on him? Right? Jamaica does a fairly good job of having their most wanted list, and they publicize it. And you know what we say? We're going to talk about the monkeypox man here in a second. But whenever something pops off in Jamaica, it's not long before it's going to be impacting someone in Cayman. So when they publish their most wanted list, that should be circulated here in Cayman as well. Let's just be honest. The countries are so closely connected to each other that that's probably a really good idea. Right? We should know, if possible, what these guys look like. Give us some kind of a description. Although, to be honest, there are people who walk around here every single day. They can get construction jobs, or they can just walk around illegally, hanging out, gambling, and doing other illegal activity. And no one really pays that much attention to them. And that's how they're able to stay under radar. Now, I do want to talk about Caymanians' responsibility in this, because if y'all think for 1 minute that this is all going to be put on the shoulders of the police, y'all need to think again. Because who do you think is bringing them in? Who do you think is harboring them and allowing them to hang out in East End and so forth? Caymanians. So I had sources calling me on Friday saying, this is nothing new. The RCIPS and CBS needs to roll up in certain areas of East End and go check out all the criminals that Caymanians have hiding up there. Because, they're going to bring me a weapon or they're going to bring me a gun. I'm going to allow hardcore criminals to enter this country with complete immunity. That's how our people are thinking. And they have people hiding out in our communities thinking that that's okay and that's kosher. And there are people in the community who know about it. Now, you all cannot be surprised when the crime rate continues to increase in the Cayman Islands, when there are more robberies and murders and so on. Well, not only do we have our own homegrown criminals, but you guys are importing some of the baddest ones in the region and harboring them up in your homes, at the bar, hanging out with you, playing dominoes and selling numbers and committing robberies. Come on now. Y'all need to do better than this. This is where, you know, inherently I have a problem with us as Caymanians when we sit down and we want to talk about other people. Oh, they're criminals, they're this, that. Yes, they're criminals everywhere in the world. Jamaica has more than its fair share. But the truth of the matter is we have a lot of criminals right here in the Cayman Islands, and we are helping to import criminals from somewhere else. How can y'all in good conscience sleep at night? Ricky says, let's build a wall. Well, we know that that's not going to work. Talk to Trump about that. That's flawed. Zambula says they're catching their own kind. I guess implying that we have a lot of Jamaican police officers in the force. Wee, good morning. Good morning, Miss Edith. Damien says, will he be extradited to Jamaica and not have him here in prison for illegal entry? Normally, what happens is they try to process someone like that as quickly as they can. Remember the guy I was just telling you guys about that is the Guyanese one? I'm told that he's still here. You know, it's like, why? That was from, when did I tell you all that was? 2020? Why is he still here? Surely he served his time for illegal landing. Or are they giving them more time for illegal landing than murder or anything else? But of course, like I said, I know what they do. They lawyer up at our expense, I should say. And then all of a sudden, you know, they're fighting to be able to remain in the Cayman Islands because our prisons are a joke. Listen, we just had through the trial with the guys in the UK, experts get on the stand and testify in court that the security at Northwood Prison is, they're like, if somebody really wanted to escape, it's more than doable. And we're hosting and harboring hardcore criminals there, which, stick a pin, are mingling with our juveniles because we have no proper juvenile facility that's separate, and mingling with our wannabe criminals, probably teaching them a thing or two, helping them to write a handbook. As though it wasn't bad enough that we had, like I said, our homegrown criminals. Leslie says, wow. Sounds like Leslie is being shocked by some information this morning. Matrix says Cayman's borders are porous as can be. Unfortunately for us, our proximity to Jamaica only makes it the worst of the worst scenario. I'm sure he isn't the first and won't be the last. Well, this is exactly why border control has to be at the top of the list when it comes to security in this country. Raj T. Opera says those names, he's having a good laugh at the names. Well, of course, I was making those up, but they're probably not all that far-fetched. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, CMR. This is Honorable Minister Kenneth Bratton. How are you doing today?
We're fantastic. Good morning. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. I see you're talking about our borders and examining the level of protection we have or don't have. But I'm not going to join you in that analysis today. What I'm calling in about, and I hope you will allow me to.
Oh, you're changing the topic? I thought you were calling in about this.
No, I just want to say one quick thing. I won't be long, I promise, but it's very, very important.
Okay.
There's a lovely, amazing young man who turned 17 today. His name is Colin Cunningham.
It's Colin's birthday?
It's Colin's birthday today. And I want to wish him a very, 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 very special happy birthday today. This young man is super special in our community, particularly in Georgetown Central. I think he's going to be a star citizen in this country. He's so smart. He goes to Triple C. He's graduating this year. Wants to be a pilot. So focused on doing good in the community and studying really hard and making his mother really proud, which is Miss Daisy Martin. And she should be so proud as a mother for such a great young man. And
Oh yeah.
I just really want to let him know how important he is to our community, because he gives his time up, all of his hours, just doing things in the neighborhood for the seniors, for the cleanup, and so balanced. You know, every time we hear about all the negative things, and I just want to celebrate this young man because he's so positive, and I think he's going to be really, really smart and grow up to be something special in our community. So if you know the family of the Martins, particularly Miss Daisy Martin, and you see her or her son somewhere today, just remind him that he's special and wish him a
Absolutely.
happy 17th birthday. And I just wish continued blessings on him and his family for his special day today. That's all I really wanted to
Yes.
say.
Okay.
And if you got those pictures, you can post them up so he can
Yes,
hopefully
definitely.
look back. And if anybody's listening wants to leave a comment for him to make him have a wonderful day today and feel good and feel boosted as a young Caymanian, please do that. Trust me, it'll go a far way for his development as a young man in Cayman. So that was it. I will
Okay.
continue to listen to your show. And happy birthday again, Colin. Keep up the
Thank
great
you.
work.
All right.
Goodbye.
Thanks very much. So we're going to send out some birthday greetings here to Colin. I thought the minister was going to talk about some border control issues. All right. Well, happy birthday, Colin. So yes, folks, there's some real concerns here about the security of our borders. And Flashpoint says we spent a lot of money standing up. I think he meant setting up the Coast Guard. What is the purpose of this new agency if the borders remain so insecure? What exactly is their mandate? Jesus, take the wheel. Take the boat, please. I mean, we heard someone saying last week that the boats that they purchased are not even fit for purpose in this jurisdiction. So I don't know. Debbie's asking the same questions. So why cannot we control the small islands borders? Disgusting. I mean, Cayman isn't that big. So it's a good question, Debbie. I'm also wondering, again, I'm no marine expert. So, how hard is it? What is it that we need? Do we need personnel that's a little bit better trained at securing our borders? Maybe we don't have the level of expertise here. I don't know, because in my opinion, we've never done a really good job at this, given what we see coming in. So do we need to bring in more experienced individuals in border control, especially on the high seas? So just because you're a seaman or you have some marine knowledge doesn't mean that you have the right kind of knowledge in how to protect your borders. And what we do know is these guys come in under the cover of darkness, right? So it's not like they're coming in at 2:00 in the afternoon where tourist boats would be spotting them coming into our shores. And they also target certain areas of the island. So why are we not focusing a little bit more on overnight coverage? What about technology? Do we need some like high-tech eyes, radars out there scanning the area? Like, listen, I'm tech-driven. Do we not have a radar system that can tell us? I know why they're using these boats. Obviously, they're low on the water. So a lot of times these types of boats have been historically used by criminals in order to go under the detection of the available radar systems. But is there nothing out there radar-wise that would actually pick up a Jamaican canoe boat? These are just questions that I have because I honestly do not know. Where are the experts? Where are the people that know? How are these guys getting in? And this is a regular thing. If I have people in the community telling me that they can pay $3,000, $4,000, again, depending on what they're bringing, to have a safe passage to the Cayman Islands. Now, I think we had some that may have drowned the other day. They went missing, never to be found again, probably. the question becomes, how is that? How does that work exactly? What do we need to secure our borders? Because this has got to be a priority. Good morning, caller. Do you have any answers in terms of what we need?
Take care of it for you.
There you go. Hi, caller.
Hi.
What do we need?
Well, we need more and better boats. We need
more and
them
better
to
boats.
be-
So these boats that we've just.
Wait. And we need better arms.
Well, can I ask you about the boats? Let's start with the boats. These are fairly new boats that were purchased when the Coast Guard was set up. We need more of those, or they're the wrong boats, as some people have said?
Well, the stuff with the jet propulsion has their use, but as you can see, they don't handle that seaweed that well. So you need to have something that can handle all of the scenarios that you can. I'm not saying they're useless. I'm saying that they have their place. But you're talking about.
Should we have our own Cayman canoe boats that can keep up with the Jamaican canoe boats? Like, do we put little propellers on those, and we're out there under the cover of darkness, like pretending like we're a drug boat? Maybe that's how we catch people.
Well, okay.
Hold on, Denny. While you're thinking, we got a caller.
No, I'm not. It's not that I'm thinking. It's that I'm trying to reformulate.
All right, I want this caller to join in because he wants to speak specifically about the Coast Guard. So we're gonna join the calls. Morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Good morning. How you doing, Sandy?
Good. How are you? You and Denny are both on the call.
Just going to be an interesting conversation.
All right, let's get to it.
Sandy, you're talking about it from the perspective of like how do we hide and then surprise them, right?
Well, I'm asking, is that an option? Is that what we need to be doing?
Well, you need to be capturing them, but what you have to understand is that capturing them means that you have to be able to force them into submission. And the question you have to ask yourself is, what's the probability of someone who's a dangerous criminal being heavily armed?
Well, of course they're heavily armed. I just said they're bringing in weapons.
Good.
So we don't have any problem shooting them out of the water. That's not a problem.
Well, actually, that is part of the problem in my view. I can remember.
How is that part of the problem?
I can remember in the past. Let me see how I could say this.
Sandy, before, well, Denny, hold that thought for a second. There's a rules of engagement with the RCIPS, and I know a little bit about that. But there's a rules of engagement of RCIPS on making a fire. Is a lot of they have to justify. It's not like U.S. where USA they find a threat or deem a threat, they can open fire at any given time. The Cayman Islands RCIPS and other agencies have to justify that before they even fire that firearm. If you notice the response team, if they come into your building, you notice that the firearm response team cannot come in by themselves. One officer cannot come in. He has to be accompanied by another officer with a firearm. One officer cannot go into a building or an establishment by themselves.
Yeah, but that's not the same type of situation. So let's be very clear here, right?
I know. I understand that, Sandy.
When we have but Mark, this to me is a bit nonsensical in the sense that when we have people coming in through our borders illegally, the assumption has to be that because they're illegal landers, that they could be coming in with anything. The RCIPS has an obligation to protect our borders, them and I guess the Coast Guard. And so if it requires them firing on a vessel after that vessel has been given some sort of an initial warning, no one's going to be sitting here arguing human rights. And if we are, We need to change the law. You know what I'm saying?
But I mean, they normally do blame on human rights for everything because
Yeah, but
I don't know if you
listen.
remember, Sandy. You might have been in the States at one time. Well, you might have been in the States when this happened, and I don't know if Danny remember this back in the late '80s, '90s, early '90s, when the Coast Guard had the Falcon here, they had the Cutter here, and they had the C-130, C-130 Hercules here,
This was the
and they
U.S.
used
Coast Guard.
right, and they used to go do night missions at nighttime, and they were busting a lot of people at night. The Coast Guard also built a radar, and it had a radar system in Cayman. Now, who may I piss off? I don't care. They decided to give that radar system and decided to give the RCIPS at the time a bunch of boats. They told them no, they did not want it. If it did not come from the Queen, they did not want it. And I know that as a fact. Okay? The fact that all right. Second of all, they gave that radar to Cayman. Cayman said they did not want it, shut it down. So they sold the radar to Venezuela, and now we rent the radar from Venezuela. That same dome that you see sitting at the end of the runway, ask them about that. And a couple of radars that they have, the couple of radar systems that we used to have strategically on this island, up in the East End, up in West Bay, up in, what do you call it, where Dark got apart now, whatever. They had a mobile radar inside there. They had a 3-point radar system that was protecting it because I personally met the gentleman that was using that radar system that used to come to Sharky sometimes at nighttime. So that's
what's the so we've had the opportunities, what you're saying, to acquire equipment.
And those boats are crap. I will tell you this as someone who drives boats, those boats are crap.
Which boats? The ones that we have currently?
Yeah, they spend more time on the shop than anything else because they have people that end up hitting the reef and mashing up those drive shafts and the foot ends of those boats. Go across and look and see where they're at now. Okay? So at the end of the day, in more than likely I will get crap for it, but I don't care. They first of all, you remember when we had Derry's Pride, the customs used to protect our borders. That was the thing. Then customs said they told customs that RCIPS had to be with them at all times. So then there was a joint thing of the RCIPS and customs. I don't know if anyone can remember this. And then all of a sudden, the customs got faded out. So custom was not there anymore. It became RCIPS handle. Then it went from the RCIPS handle to Coast Guard, which still using the same RPS officers, but they just rebranded it, right? Just because you paint a lipstick on a pig doesn't mean it's still not a pig. Okay? And they rebranded it. It had the same RCIPS officers. They put a couple of people inside there and call it the Coast Guard, still handled by the RCIPS. It's still branded under, it's not a different unit. It's still rebranded under the RCIPS. And they got a couple of boats in there. Tell me how 3 boats can cover almost 350 miles of this island, square footage of this island. Look at the square footage of Cayman and Cayman Brac. The thing is, once they get to Cayman Brac, they're safe. Right? All they have to do is get to the Brac or Little Cayman, and they're safe. We have no radar protections at all, so they could come at the end of the night. And then the problem is with Jamaica canoes. Let me explain about radars. Radars will work efficiently, but Jamaica canoes, or they call it, they actually, when they run underneath, when they run on water, they're water level.
Yeah,
so it's hard for radars to pick them up.
Yeah.
But if you have an
That's
aircraft
why physical
above,
patrols are necessary.
right? But if you have an aircraft above, like what they used to have, the air people were, and also correction, they also had the airwalk, the plane with the radar on top. You see it a lot in the U.S. They had that as well, assisting the Coast Guard. So you have stuff like that, man hours coming in and assisting. They were dropping people left, right, and center when it came to that. Coast Guards, when they give you a warning, they shoot above your bow. They have a 50 caliber weapon on the front of their bow. When they shoot above their bow, they give you a couple warnings. Then they shoot across your bow. Then that's your next warning. You continue, that's a hostile threat. You're going down. So The boats that they have there is not efficient for high seas. Those boats cannot go out and waves more than 10 to 15 feet of water. Sorry. Make a nice swell come in, and that's when people come in. When you have southwesters, northeasters, when the waves are rough, they could come in then. They're not going to come in with flat, calm water. You know, well, today is calm. Let's go out today. No.
Yeah,
what do you think
they
half of
take a
them are
chance.
drowning on the way
Yeah.
over? That's why they're drowning on the way over.
Yeah, and I mean, they want to take a chance when nobody else might be on the water as well.
Exactly. So the thing is that we need to get more protection on this island. Yes, someone was saying in your comment, you got to build a wall. Like, really? All they have to do is have more radar protection, invest in and put in better radar systems in Cayman, all right? People who know how to run the radar, get some people to come in, to spend the money wisely on the island, get the people to come in to train Caymanians or train people how to do the radar system. When they hire the Caymanians or hire anyone, vet their background, all right, to make sure that because when we go to the U.S., Masanda, you know that we vetted before you even get on the plane. Because the CBP will tell you, do not board this person, do not send this person before they get on that aircraft.
All right.
All right.
Denny?
So.
Thank you.
What I'd say is that when you're going to engage someone that's a serious threat, I've decided that what I was going to say before, I'm not going to actually detail it, but I'm going to say to you that in instances you can find yourself being outgunned. And there are multiple elements fighting successfully and winning. Part of it has to do with being offensive. Part has to be our defensive strategies. And what I'm saying is that you don't want to be in a situation where you encounter someone on the sea and your assessment of their capability is that it would be unwise to engage. And in order for that to happen, some of the nonsense that Mark just mentioned, we need to stop doing in this country. No one will be under any illusion that me and the RCIPS have a completely different view about defense. I have a long history of disagreeing with them. And to send people out without sufficient arms, without sufficient protection, without sufficient ammunition is a suicide mission.
Yeah, and
listen, I need you to just listen. No one is going to engage in a situation in which they think they're going to lose. That's part of the problem. So what you need is properly, I do not want RCIPS officers going out there thinking, oh, this is a fair fight. No, I want it to be an unfair fight. I want the RCIPS to have an overwhelming advantage.
But Debbie, go ahead.
And I'm just saying that the philosophy of the British, I disagree with.
Correct.
What you just outlined about the U.S. Coast Guard, that's my understanding, and it's one that I agree with. What you said about the supplying of equipment from the U.S., that was my understanding of what took place too, and why we ended up with the type of equipment that we have today. Not saying that the aircraft that we have is somehow like bad aircraft, but the boats.
Denny, let me ask you a question. The helicopter that we got, okay? Why did we have to send that to Texas when we first got it? Because it had to be refitted because it cannot. It had to be retrofitted. Let me say this to you, Denny. That aircraft had to be retrofitted because it cannot fly over 50 nautical miles without the flotations on it, just in case it go down. Even though it has right. All right. Number one, the Dolphin that they have can easily equip. I did not say about sending any Cayman Islands RCIPS out there on fitted. When United States Coast Guard,
I didn't say that. You said that.
Okay.
I'm saying that that's what they're doing.
Okay, but when United States were not giving it to them, they were actually giving them boats that they, after a while, they recommission and they get newer boats. They said, listen, we'll fix up this boat. We'll sell it to you, okay, at a fair price. Okay, I remember this conversation. They would sell it to them at a fair price with a 50 caliber. Now, let me explain something to you. You know firearms, okay? If someone has an AR-15 or a 350 or a handgun or anything like that, what's the range of that compared to a 50 caliber weapon? Now, if I have a 50 caliber weapon that shoot over my bow and I got two little Glocks and a AR-15 or a semi-automatic weapon, semi-automatic weapon is not going to go far at sea. You have a 50 caliber weapon, you can shoot at almost a half a mile before, all right? And if I hear that go above my bow, I'm going to stop. I don't care how much ammunition I have. 150 caliber weapon hitting a boat at high seas, yeah. And if you're going to get a boat, most of the Coast Guard boats, cutters, are armor-piercing bullets, have armor-piercing. When these guys go behind the 50 caliber weapons on their boats, they also have protection around them.
Yeah.
Okay? And I'm saying that no one is actually saying send RCIPS. I would never send out RCIPS.
All right, hold on. We got somebody else who wants to jump in on the conversation. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Hey, morning.
How are you?
Morning.
I'm good. Hi.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-oh.
Hi, morning. I have been listening and always very, very passionate about what we're talking about this morning. And although I have reservations about making comments, verbally like this, I think that I just have to. And if the day ever comes that I need to be scared because I'm being truthful, then we have some serious issues. So I'm just going to go ahead and say that there is absolutely nothing in this entire world except my wife and my son that is more closer to my heart, more meaningful to me, that means anything more to me than marine patrols, drug interdiction, and search and rescue. That is my absolute passion. I was privileged enough to do that for many 19 years. I was in law enforcement. And I was privileged to be on the sea. We were there when Customs had the first marine section. The United States Customs gave us very pride. That then morphed into the Drugs Task Force, which was a combination of police officers and customs officers. I had marine ships. I worked with the best marine law enforcement officers in the entire world. And I say that with no fear or hesitation, because I know for a fact it is true. Every single one of my guys was top-notch on the game. We worked, most of the time it was three days on and 3 days off, and we would be at sea doing patrols, sometimes 3 days, sometimes into the 4th day before we got back home to our families, because it meant that much to us. We could not be effective being tied to the dock. We could not be effective in an office. For us to do our job, to save lives, to stop smuggling, we had to be at sea. And we were there in the calm, we were there in the rough. We went out in hurricanes to perform search and rescue operations, literal hurricanes, to save people's lives who were sinking. We didn't sit and wait for someone else to do it. We relied on the public to help us, but we were there in the forefront leading them. When we didn't have boats, we had Protector. When she was out of commission for about 2 years or a year or something, getting new engines, we relied on members of the public who lent us their boats so we could still be effective. We didn't sit down for 2 years and do nothing. We had a close, knit relationship with members of the public who, if they saw something, they would call us. If we needed something, we could call them. Search and rescue was something that we lived for. I can tell you one instance of the lengths that we did, the stuff that we did at sea. A report came in once from Cayman of people spearfishing off the creek in Cayman and they suspected they didn't have a speargun license. There wasn't any marine officers in Cayman at the time. What did we do? 2 officers jumped on a 31-foot little rigid hull inflatable boat and went to Cayman and caught and arrested them before they got back to shore. Can you imagine? That's the passion that we had. We were out there rough, calm, 24/7. If we had the boats and the equipment that the Coast Guard has now, we would be literally in heaven. We had a 21-foot rigid hull inflatable. We had 2 jet skis and a 48-foot patrol boat by the name of Protector, who I have been through more stuff on that boat, hours, thousands of hours at sea in conditions that I wouldn't send that most people wouldn't send their picture out in. But I was there, right with my guys right next to me, confident that we could get our job done, because at the end of the day, we had to go back home to our families whenever we got there. And that's something that I'm passionate about, and it hurts me to the core when I see the lack of, when I see how everything is going now. Our borders are so porous, it's like looking through a chain fence. No one is out patrolling. We have these wonderful vessels that are, if we had them, we would have been king of the hill. They have jet drives. That's an issue that I would have never met with because of the seaweed issue. So they have so much equipment like vision. They have so much more stuff that we didn't have when there was a blood task force marine section. When there was people who lived to go to work in the morning.
So caller, let me ask you a question. If equipment isn't the issue, because you're saying that they have more technology, more equipment than you guys had back in the day, then what's the problem?
The problem is you are only as strong as your weakest link. The problem is lack of experience, lack of motivation, and lack of knowledge. You can be book smart, but that doesn't mean you can be effective on your job. You have to have people who look forward to going out and doing stuff in conditions that nobody else wants to. You can have the best boat in the world. It's like the world's best captain is only as good as his lineman. Because if you have someone handling your lines when you're docking up a boat, no matter how good you are, if those lines aren't dealt with properly, you're going to something is going to go wrong and you're going to scratch the boat. So you are only as good as the lineman, the world's best captain. So the world's best Coast Guard is only as good as its leaders and its officers.
Pause it right there for me, caller. We got another caller who's wanting to join the conversation. So
yeah,
morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, ma'am. I hope I'm engaged with the right gentleman. I was listening a while ago. I had to come off listening to make the call. So I hope he's still there talking about border control and all that.
Yeah,
and I only got
four of you on the line right now.
Yeah, I only got a snippet of that, but I just wanted to make very quickly. You said you don't know what is happening. Sometimes you can believe what you hear. Your vessel was named the Protector. So every morning when you stepped on board, or every 2 o'clock in the morning when you stepped on board, couldn't see where you were going, you were stepping on board of the Protector. Sometimes you must believe the words that we hear and the words that we see. So that's the difference right there for me. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you so much for that comment. Appreciate it. Callers, let's take a quick commercial break. I'm also aware that Jared wants to jump in on the conversation as well, but please stay with us. Oh, we do have another caller who's calling in, so I'm going to pull them in. Caller, just give me one quick second. I'm going to add you to the conversation, but we're going to just take a quick commercial break from some of our sponsors who make it possible for us to have these amazing discussions every morning here on the Cold Hard Truth. Big shout out to Crichton Properties. If you've got a property, folks, and you're trying to get it listed, whether it's land, a condo, a house, you want to list it for sale, Crichton Properties is definitely the company that you want to reach out to. Caymanian owned and operated from day one. Need I say any more?
Crichton Properties is one of Cayman's most trusted real estate companies for over 50 years. We offer a diverse selection of property listings and help our clients navigate the world of buying or selling their properties with confidence. Crichton is a name you can trust with our excellent customer service and family-friendly touch. Contact us today to list your home, land, or condo for sale by calling 949-5250 or email info@crichtonproperties.com. Crichton Properties, a trusted Cereba member.
Healthy Life app is now My HSA Cayman. Securely access your health information and COVID-19 vaccine QR code anytime, anywhere. You can get the My HSA Cayman app by following the easy steps. Step 1. Search My HSA Cayman in your app store. If you already have Healthy Life, open the app and you will be prompted to download the My HSA Cayman app. Step 2. Download the My HSA Cayman app. Once download is complete, search for Cayman Islands Health Services Authority. Step 3. Login. Enter your username and password. This is the same username and password used on the Healthy Life app or desktop portal account. Having trouble with your login? Reset your password. Click Forgot Password on the login page and follow the prompts. If you're still having difficulties, email portalinfo@hsa.ky or visit the portal FAQ page at www.hsa.ky. Sign up for My HSA Patient Portal online or on site at any of our registration counters.
The Cold Hard Truth is Cayman's #1 talk show since it debuted in March 2020. According to independent research, we are the most listened to talk show in 2021, and most people prefer us to any other options on island. We tackle tough issues some days, and other times have fun and lighthearted discussions. But most importantly, the Cold Hard Truth is here for you. Thank you for your support as we continue to be the voice of the people in 2022 and beyond.
All right, folks, welcome back to the program. We do have multiple callers on the line. We just had another caller who joined in, so let's give them an opportunity to jump in on the conversation. Caller number 4, good morning.
Morning, is that me?
Yes, sir.
Morning, everyone. Morning to the other callers. I was actually listening in to everyone. I was wondering, I'm no expert on the sea, so I'm not going to pretend to have any expertise there. So I'm just taking in what everybody else says. But I wanted to know what everyone's thoughts were on everybody walking around with a national ID card. I mean, I know that was something that was in the works some time ago. I haven't heard anything more about it since, but wouldn't that help?
It's soon come. I know that they have a prototype that they're testing out right now. But the question I have for you, caller, is: do you think criminals care about a national ID card? I'm just saying, the things that we put in place for law-abiding citizens, like, national ID card, you must have a driver's license and insurance. Somebody was asking, how did he get access to a vehicle? And obviously, he's either renting it himself without any proper documentation to be able to do so, or there are other people, Caymanians, Jamaicans, somebody else in this community who are going out there renting cars of people who could very well be criminals. If somebody rolls up on you, caller, and wants you to do certain things, do you not do any degree of due diligence to say, well, why do you need me to rent you a car? Why can't you rent it in your own name? Where's your ID? Where's your, so it's an unfortunate situation, but I think for other reasons, we definitely need to get this national ID card off the ground. But I have to wonder if that really helps with the criminal element at all, because they're not going to be walking around with an ID. They don't care.
I have a comment.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Okay, my comment about that is that when you think about law enforcement, the thing that shines bright and true is that laws only apply to people who follow them. A criminal means, a law means absolutely nothing to a criminal. A lock on a door means a lot to you and I because a door is locked. We are not going to force it or we're not going to go in. But a lock on a door means nothing to a criminal. So we are a country of laws. We have the most laws about every single thing in the world. But laws mean nothing if they are not properly enforced. We have marine conservation laws that almost restrict you from looking at a certain area of the North Sound. But it's not being properly enforced. So if you're not going to enforce the laws to the best of your ability, and that says it all. If you have no equipment to do something with, you should not be expected to do that job. But if you are provided with millions and millions and millions of dollars in budget, in funds, in equipment every single year, with a budget to have the best staff, the best officers to get the job done, and you do not do it, that should be a criminal offense.
Correct. And my other thing is to the officer as well, or former officer. You remember back in the day when most fishermen used to have a fishery officer license, where they saw stuff they could intervene. What happened to that?
It died by the wayside.
Okay.
Once again, that was members of the community volunteering to do something to help the situation.
Sandy, just so in case if you didn't know, most fishermen, like the crew from Captain Marvin's and all of those guys, they mostly had fishery officers license, meaning they could enforce the law if they see it being broken. That's disappeared. Okay, so
but
they
of
had
course, they don't necessarily. I mean, I wouldn't imagine that they would be helping much with drug boats coming in because again.
No, I understand that, but like the officer said, and I do remember that because as my brother being a former police officer and friends of mine being officers as well, they were enforcing, like the gentleman said, they would go out for days. And I remember my brother used to go on. He would not be home for a few days because he was doing either a raid or something like that. And regardless of what they used to say about the good old days, right? We had officers, and I know they won't. This officer could kind of relate to that. You had people like Scott Noack, Brown, Mystic, Montague, all these guys. When you see them coming to you for a raid, every weekend was a raid. Every weekend it was a raid. And I remember them showing up at sessions. You didn't even have raids at sessions anymore. They used to come out to sessions in a Nissan Sunny. They go on the whole 4, but you see about 6 big guys run out of that going raid, and they will lock off the session, right? And that was the enforcement. People complain about that. Now it stopped, and people now complaining. And the problem is that, like he said, it always comes down to the weakest link. Now, our borders, basically, no disrespect, is a joke. Anybody could come in and out. You have boats that can leave Cayman, and they have to call port security to tell them, okay, I'm leaving Cayman. When they go 12-mile bike, if someone's going 12-mile bike fishing, and they call port security and say, port security, we're going out 12-mile bike, 6 boat souls on board. And when they return them back in, do they go to customs? Do they get inspected on the way back in? Okay, they come straight back into port, and 9 times out of 10 they don't get inspected. Port security will be back on shore. Okay, no problem. Who's to say where they went on that 12-mile bank fishing? When we have all these boat tournaments and people are going out, who's inspecting these boats on the way back in? Yes, you could go off during a tournament and fish, but who's to know that you might have used that fishing tournament as disguise to do something else that's illegal? And like you said, a criminal is not going to abide by the law.
Well,
You know?
caller, sorry.
I like
if I could just jump in, I was just reading the national ID card thing, just to kind of, I mean, those who are here would have that, and I mean, I'm just saying, those who are not from here wouldn't have it, so that would sort of like eliminate. Anyway, I just thought I'd run my 2 cents. Say whatever.
I mean, I think it has its part. This person on Facebook comments, Mr. Amelia says, an ID can only work if. How would an ID work if they're coming in by canoes? It is a criminal offense when officers do not do their duty. Section 119 of the Penal Code 2019. They're too comfortable in their offices. So you know, she's being critical of the police and I guess other enforcement agencies. So let me just say this while we're on the topic, and I know Jared wants to come in and have a few comments as well. So you guys are familiar with the R3 Foundation, which was set up, I think, in 2020. You know, we kind of thought it was a response to COVID, but it seems like their mandate really extends beyond that. So R3 stands for Readiness, Relief, and Recovery. On last week, Thursday, at the Chamber Parliamentary Luncheon, the DART organization, Jackie Doak on behalf of the DART organization, talked about the fact that the DART organization has donated some $500,000, which they have matched funds. So there's a group called the Simpson Group, and they donated $500,000. DART matched that donation dollar for dollar. So now they have a total of $1 million that has been earmarked for national security needs. So this ties in really with the discussion that we're having this morning, folks. $1 million that can help with any sort of security initiatives or technology that they may be trying to acquire. So some people in the comment section were saying, oh, but this is going to be expensive. Does government have the money? Here we have private sector. And this was all part of her speech that she presented at the luncheon on Thursday. Here we have private sector now, folks, coming and stepping up. And I wish more individuals in private sector could do this by way of the R3 Foundation. They're supposed to be in talks with the governor, the RCIPS, CBC, and the Coast Guards about how the funding can be used to help secure our borders and, you know, really address some of these national security issues a bit more. That's $1 million is not just a drop in the bucket. That's good money. So I would be interested to see, you know, what comes of those discussions. Hopefully the public will be kept abreast of that and we will know a little bit more. Don't forget now that the R3 Foundation was originally seeded with $1 million donation from the Kenneth B. Dart Foundation. And, you know, so money may not be as much of an option. And I want to encourage other private sectors. We got tons of accounting firms here, tons of law firms and others who could be stepping up to the plate and matching donations or putting a little bit of money into the kitty bank. Because trust me, if they don't understand how national security impacts us all, I mean, that's a problem, right? So who else is going to be stepping up?
You know the best way to spend that money?
What's the best way?
One of the best ways to spend that money, since we have excellent head start on equipment, is to pay officers their worth. Now, not one single one of us did our job because we were getting paid. We did it because we loved it. But nothing motivates anyone more than knowing that they are valued. That goes a long way. Right now, you have members of the community who go out and find missing persons on their own. They don't do it for praise, but it certainly feels good. If praise is going to be directed, the praise has to go to the person who did the job, which also adds to motivation.
Yeah.
And the other thing is too.
So I want to read some other comments, and then we're going to bring Jared in. So this listener says, it was armed immigration officers and police boats back in the day. Those guys don't know how to operate boats, etc. If they could hire a few of these West Bay guys that knows the water, you don't hear of these boats hitting reefs, metals, etc. in the ocean. Someone else says, once again, here is proof that the Coast Guard is not doing their job and is a waste of money and a disgrace. They do not do any proactive patrols. They only go out when they're told and have very specific intelligence and know exactly when a drug boat or where a drug boat will be. They go to the exact spot and simply wait for the boat to show up. so that they can catch it and bring it in with a huge statement about the wonderful job that they're doing. They have never caught a boat while simply out on patrol. Everyone they catch, they knew or someone else found it and reported it. They have the same MO for search and rescue operations: sit back and do nothing and take the credit when private citizens do their job for them, or do not even have the decency to say thank you to the people who actually did their job. When they are pressured and forced to admit that they did nothing and lied about what they actually did, what do? Respond to the lies with another lie, like they did with the last rescue off of Cayman Brack, and say that they were late because they were responding to another rescue operation. What a lie. One lie to cover up another one. This is a disgrace. I know for a fact that there was absolutely no other report that they were dealing with that day. They were late because they broke down and they had to be towed in, but they did not admit that either. CICG, millions of dollars wasted, and young Caymans becoming fed up and frustrated because they see and know that they are not doing what they should be doing. Maybe, right, and then they said about the passport, maybe like I had a fake passport. But this is kind of interesting because I even saw another newspaper publication where they, and part of the cover up and the lie, they even went back to the father who put together the rescue team and got an interview from him about, he's not going to throw his I guess counterparts under the bus. Of course, he's a civil servant, so he wouldn't if he cared about his job, right? So all these guys, he's in fire rescue, they all have to work together. So he's not going to make any disparaging remarks about them. But it's really interesting how the spin on the story all of a sudden changed once the police were caught with a press release that was completely wrong. Another publication like, he's thanking the CICG. I'm like, thanking them for what? This is where, again, we become part of the problem because we're not prepared to call out slackness when it happens, even on the job. So this caller goes on and says the boats have radar, they have night vision and thermal imaging cameras, all of which are top of the line equipment for fighting the war on drugs at sea, but they are only effective if they are used. They're no good on a boat tied to a dock. You catch them the way they were caught years ago when there was a drug task force, Marine section, patrol. The rules of engagement have little to do with it. They catch them and you first have to find them, and you find them by patrolling night and day when it's calm and when it's rough. The vessels of the Coast Guard have at their disposal now can outrun and outperform almost all of the boats, all the drug boats that come here. The problem is that we do not have experienced, seasoned captains and crew to get the job done. The Drug Task Force Marine Unit operated at a totally different level. They had officers who operated around the clock in all weather conditions and did jobs that will never be recreated. It's not the boat, it's the crew. The crew can take the rough seas, have no experience, and have no drive to do their job. The equipment and boats are not the problem. The real problem is lack of experience and knowledge. Wow.
That's not entirely correct. I mean, I take the point, but the point is, person is saying regarding a person's desire to do their job. That's a valid point, but it's not true to say that to think that we don't need equipment. I think Mark pointed out.
Well, they don't say that we don't need equipment. They're saying that the equipment is there, and it still isn't.
I know, but saying that it's there is suggesting that or implying that it's adequate. And Mark quite correctly pointed out earlier that the sister islands, for example, doesn't have Grand Cayman doesn't have the coverage it needs, much less the sister island.
But then the Coast Guard had a plan. They had officers stationed on the Brack. There was a vessel purchased just for the sister island.
Yep.
And nothing came out of it. They had an officer here for a couple of months.
Let me just join this caller in. Caller joining us.
They had
from New York. Caller, good morning. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Sandy.
Hi there.
I was listening into your program. I am from the Cayman Islands, but I live in New York.
Yes, ma'am.
I was mentioning early before the old officers that they had in the Marine unit. They're mostly Caymanians and they know the water. They used to get a lot of results on the water. Maybe that's what they need to look at. And also, the government can invest in a primary surveillance radar. That equipment can pick up boats or anything that is in the water from a long distance. Yes.
Yes. Okay.
So if you have officers that don't know the land, then they won't know the sea. And then you need to have officers that are not afraid of the water. So I think that the borders need to be controlled because that's most of the stuff are coming in.
Well, caller, thank you so much for joining us, and thanks for listening all the way from New York.
You are most welcome.
All right, my dear. Okay, gentlemen, we still
The
have
radar
you.
is the radar is a tricky situation because what you have right now, if I remember correctly, I think that can go down to about 100 feet. So you can get low flying aircraft down to a certain level, but what was pointed out earlier regarding the Jamaican canoe being low to the water, the reason that they're doing that is to try to evade the radar, but that's the why it needs to be enhanced with thermal technologies.
All right, we got another caller. Just 1 second there, Denny. Jared?
Yeah, morning, Sunday.
All right, caller, let me just merge you with everybody else. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Good morning again, CMR, Sandy,
Yes, sir.
Minister Kenneth Bryan. How you doing?
Good, good.
Interestingly enough, on another national radio station, they're talking about marijuana and the decriminalization of it. And I think it boards, it's connected in some capacity to our border control. And maybe you might have covered this or not, but I just want to know, because there's this theory out there, and I think Denny may have an input on this, but most people have assumes that majority of the illegal boats or the illegal persons that come here come through an exercise of bringing in marijuana.
They do.
Okay, that's a common accepted practice. Now, the common accepted actions that happen. Now, the other two obviously dangerous things is throughout that process, or three things, is the illegal guns, illegal other kinds of drugs other than marijuana, and then individuals themselves. So you have three other components that are bad in this illegal importation. So there's this theory that if there was a decriminalization or legalization of marijuana, it would ultimately reduce the number of importations into the country due to the fact of the legalization of marijuana. Is that considered to be a good enough reason to support the concept of decriminalization of marijuana? I'm just
where's
that research come from? Which university researched that?
Yeah, I'm just
substantiate that.
Where's the evidence?
Again, I didn't say evidence. I said accepted common principle, or most people believe that to be the case. I don't have the facts, and
I don't know if most people believe that to be the case, because like you just said, the gunboats, the canoe boats are coming in for various reasons. So there's this concept. I'm kind of glad you brought this up, actually, because I was speaking to someone even about the national lottery, right? There is this overarching belief, which I think is flawed in how it is being processed and thought through, that if we legalize something, that somehow addresses the criminal element of it. So say, for example, we have a national lottery system. That means that the illegal lottery sellers are going to disappear, which for the record means that millions of dollars is actually leaving the Cayman Islands on an annual basis. But that may not actually be the case at all. There's been no research to support that if you legalize something, the illegality aspect of it disappears, because criminals will always have a one-up on the legal lottery system or the legal, marijuana system. You know what I'm saying? So the people who get their drugs from the guy on the street, may not go to a proper dispensing unit to be able to get it from someone who's been approved by government to supply it in any way, shape, or form. A lot of times it's laced with other things, and those other things is really the attraction.
Well, Sandra, it depends on what angle you want to look at your discussion and your debate. Like, I agree with you that you will have people who will don't do it within the legal framework that is there. But if you were to legalize marijuana, hypothetically speaking, and people don't go through the right commerce practice, like say, for instance, somebody washing a car with a business license as opposed to a person who's not washing a car, then you have a commerce violation as opposed to a criminal violation like importation of marijuana. So it depends on how you view it subjectively. And I dare say that though you may not have evidence of it, people draw conclusions every day. You draw conclusions every day. I do. Everybody does on what they think the interpretation is. Now, I'm only questioning what people's viewpoints are, because how people feel about a matter without the supporting information is valid to the community's perspective on something, right? So, and I, matter of fact, to support this in respect of evidence, I've heard numerous of times police commissioner after police commissioner have said that the primary reason for illegal boats coming into the country is for the importation of marijuana. Now, in most cases, they've also said that they also are substituted or also have other illegal activities, but the primary focus is in marijuana. And so I didn't remember that just now when I answered you, but I'm certain that if you ask the commissioner
So Natasha asked the point, what about other drugs?
Yeah, because if you substantiate,
let's legalize.
I'm not suggesting that, but what I'm saying though is that you would probably agree that most people, if they had to choose, hypothetically speaking, had to choose between the legalization of two different drugs, well, one be cocaine and one being marijuana, I think most people in the public would say marijuana.
Okay.
I mean,
the problem.
I don't know that I mean, in my mind, I don't know the
connection.
Let me
chime in on. Can I chime in on something, Sandy?
Yes.
Marijuana, when the marijuana comes into Cayman, the most imports right now is firearms, not marijuana.
What's coming in on these boats?
Canada's mentioned marijuana and legal people. Firearms are coming in. They're coming in with a Glock, coming in with an AR, they're coming in with a semi-automatic weapon. Regardless, because you putting a Band-Aid on a wound doesn't make the wound still does not exist. And the problem is we still have people coming in here. The fact is that they're coming in. You're supposed to stop it from coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe that's all.
And what about, okay, in the 80s, the drug of choice around the world, in the late 70s, early 80s, going into the 90s, was actually cocaine. We had the cocaine cowboys, and they were running using Jamaican and Cayman as a transport point from getting the drugs from South and Central America, bring it from Colombia, and we were one of the transport points, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't get it. Was back in that day, was it these drug boats not an issue then? Of course they were. They were bringing it in by plane, by boat, any means necessary. They were dropping cocaine and laundered money and every single thing on us. And the way to address it isn't always to decriminalize something. We haven't decriminalized money laundering. I mean,
no. Okay. So Sandra, okay, because sometimes you ask a question, it goes far fetched, right, and make people draw conclusions. Maybe it's the way I pose the question. So let me see if I can do it again. I said, do you think the probability of decriminalizing marijuana would reduce the number of importations illegally via boat, which will fall with those four things: marijuana, cocaine, guns, and illegal persons? Now I will challenge.
No, it's not going to fix nothing.
Hold on. Let me finish up. Please. I'll challenge Mark by saying that his assessment also needs evidence to suggest that majority of the importations are with guns. I would love to hear the police commissioner support your argument. I wouldn't love to hear it, but I would be surprised to hear that he says majority of the importations from illegal boats is to do with guns rather than with marijuana. With the high level of consumption of marijuana in this country, we all know that boats come in here probably almost every week in order to facilitate the amount of consumption of marijuana. So if you're saying that more boats come in with guns than that amount, I would be really seriously concerned in our community.
Okay, well, let's be concerned about this. Kenneth. Look at from 1980 to 1995 to 2000. How many gun violence that you've seen back in the 80s and in the 90s compared to what's going on right now? Where are they getting it from? If you're talking about you want to know evidence, look at the amount of gun violence and from 2018 to 2022 of how many people have lost their children, their brothers, their sisters, their children. I'm saying, but you're saying that, okay, give me a second. You're saying that I need evidence. Look at the amount of gun violence for this year, right? Compared to amount of gun violence back in the 80s and 90s when the borders were being properly protected. And you're saying that guns are not coming in as much as it used to be?
I never said that, Mark. Again, maybe it's the way I posed the question that you didn't hear me.
But you're saying that I need evidence. Don't worry about the commissioner. Look at the evidence. The commissioner can say anything to say, hold on, with all due respect, the commissioner could say anything to say, oh, there's not enough evidence of gun violence. I mean, the guns coming into the island. When there's boats bringing in marijuana, okay, you're not going to bring in marijuana with a Zippo lighter and a cell phone. You're going to bring in marijuana with guns because you have to have guns to protect the marijuana that's coming in.
I agree with you.
Let me ask the minister one question. Minister, let me just ask you one question.
Let me just clarify what he said, though, if that's okay. I did not suggest that guns are not coming in. Matter of fact, I said that the four things that do come in is guns, marijuana, cocaine, and illegal persons. I agree with you, but your position was the majority of the things that come in illegally is guns.
Yes, because the gun got protect the marijuana. That's how it worked. That's how the drug trade work. Criminal elements not thinking and logicalizing how we talking right now. The main goal is to take the shipment from Jamaica and bring it to Cayman and sell it and get the cut. And guns are coming in to protect that ganja. It's the same. We got guns lying
guns
around.
are coming in for a number of different reasons, not just the ganja. They're bringing guns in for the criminal elements in Cayman.
Yeah.
Minister, let me ask you one question, because I do know that you are in favor of I guess legalizing marijuana, or at least having the discussion, as well as legalizing gambling, right?
Come on, Sandra, don't do a leading question. You're better than that. Do not say I'm in favor. Did I say that just now?
Well, let me just ask you then, are you in favor of legalizing ganja or not?
If that's what the people of the country want, then yes. I'm a representative of the people's view. What I am ashamed about is that we're not willing to ask the question.
All right. Well, the question that I have for you this morning is: have you read, in preparation for not just this discussion here this morning, but generally speaking, right? Whatever your position is on the legalization of marijuana, have you read any studies in relation to the jurisdictions that have legalized it? What the outcome of those jurisdictions have been in terms of reducing crime and so forth, and even raising revenue for the government, etc.
Well, there's thousands of reports out there, so I have
actually there really isn't thousands, but
no, I disagree with you wholeheartedly.
Okay,
I disagree wholeheartedly. Now you can say how you feel, but you don't know what reports are in every different country. So you may know the ones that are closest to home are the ones that you select, but you cannot say there's not reports out there about marijuana consumption.
No, I just said there weren't. I just said there weren't thousands. I mean, there's.
Okay.
Can I say something?
Yes.
And I'd like to say
something. And hold on, we have another caller who would like to say something too. So one
second.
Caller, good morning, and welcome.
Conversation, because we're jumping all over the place.
Sorry, Danny. Say that.
I just have a comment. I just had a comment in regards to the Honorable Minister's question in regards to the amount of illegal importations of ganja from Jamaica primarily, if ganja is legalized. My thoughts on that is that regardless of if ganja is legalized or not, the demand will still be here, and Cayman is not a source country. So yes, there is no guarantee that the illegal importation, illegal shipments of drugs via boat and train, or however they come in, will not decrease because there will still be the demand. That's my opinion on it. There will still be the demand in the prohibition in the United States when they made alcohol illegal. Once the prohibition was removed, no one didn't stop drinking. It's just that it wasn't a crime. So I don't think that there will be a drop in the illegal boats coming across, bring in illegal persons, bring in guns once ganja is legalized, because the demand will still be here.
Well, no doubt the demand will be there, but
I hold a different view, and
Go ahead, Dan, sorry.
because the way that was nuanced is to say that Cayman is not a sourced country, but if you were to legalize it in the Cayman Islands would move from not being a source country to being a source country. And
How can Cayman be a source country when it does not produce, does not farm, does not grow?
Coast Guard we here talk about.
That's the current situation, right? That's current. But if you were to legalize, then there would be no prohibition against possession, which means that you could cultivate.
Not necessarily. I mean, some people.
Not necessarily. What do you mean?
Some jurisdictions allow you to have a small quantity for personal use, but that doesn't mean you can have a ganja farm.
But that's decriminalization. I just said
No, they make it legal for you to have a small quantity for use, but that does not mean you can be out there farming it.
Well, let's put it this way. Without getting sidetracked on this particular issue, I'm in favor of legalizing it, and if it is legalized, it would be grown here, and it would definitely impact the flow of cannabis from Jamaica.
But does that impact the flow of the drug boats that are coming in? Because those are two different questions.
Entirely no.
And I think like what you said, Denny, we're very for the conversation and the topic of our borders being patrolled, and that's one of the things.
It is related to the.
Yeah, but then how do we better patrol them, regardless if it's legalized or not? It's just like on your topic, Denny, right? What are your topics that you've talked about many times of gun owners protecting their own home or protecting their establishment? You're not going to see that coming anytime soon, right? Despite how much
actually, that is the current law.
Kenneth, Ms. Ramelia has a question for you. She says, so Kenneth, if the people want you to jump off a bridge, will you do it as well?
No,
I wouldn't, and that's obviously trying to stray us away from the.
You got to admit it was pretty funny.
Sandra,
you got to admit that was funny as hell.
That's fine. But I'm trying to allow. I mean, in my opinion, conversate with the public in respect to these topics, right? Even at the risk of being accused of position.
No.
Right. Wait. Let me finish. Please, pretty, please. Let me finish. My point was only that. Yes, I agree that your topic is about border control, but even the great United States, that has probably some of the best border protection in the world, still have importation. Now, one of the strategies of border protection is the reduction of the need of whatever is being imported. That's a strategy. So I'm saying to you, and my question was, if one was decriminalized or legalized, would the risk of a lot of importation be reduced? I didn't say absolutely stop it altogether, because there's still going to be people who want to either bring somebody in illegally or bring a gun in. But the probabilities of more chances of importation would be reduced. That's what I'm suggesting.
But
So Jane is asking for us to get back on track here.
They're not importing guns into the United States, because you could go to any store and buy a gun.
Yeah.
The importation of cocaine and whatever.
Actually, that's not entirely correct, because they come across
we
the
do
border.
have another caller on the line, so let's give them an opportunity. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Oh, I like this conversation. I like the participants. So good morning, Mr. Dennett. Good morning, Minister. Minister, I want to talking to you. We're not going to vote on nothing out here. We're discussing a little bit of argument. Minister, I can come and sit down in your office one whole afternoon, not a morning, because then you had to run to lunch, and explain to you my marijuana situation, and I want you to take that back then to my Prem, and my deputy. Minister, I'm an old woman, you know that for sure. The rest of the Cayman Islands might know that, but all you surrounding in this conversation know that I'm an old woman. I didn't have to use when I was growing up. I didn't use when I was growing up. I'm still alive. I am old. And the question of compassion has been asked and answered in this country. The question of compassionate marijuana has sensibly and compassionately been asked for medical purposes. It's been asked and answered. My family members don't need none because they're already aggressive. They got 1 or 2 drops of LD blood. They are already aggressive. We don't need it to be cute. I want, and my wishes in Cayman, to me, are as important as yours or anybody else's. I want Cayman to be right because we are morally right. Not right because we slipped it under the fence or over the counter. Our children, unless medically prescribed, and that has been asked and answered, don't need ganja. We don't need to catch up with the rest of the world because I believe what the medical profession used to say a long time ago, that it's a gateway drug. And in my particular circumstances, I'll come talk to you about. And if I press me too hard, I'll belch it on the air right here. It's not good for our families. And you know what I fear? When in my country, in my yard, we would have about 68 pots, according to what the prime is the considerations are, that we have, each family can have 1 or 2 pots for themselves growing. They are aggressive growers. Come see that instead of my breadfruit tree in my yard. Can it come on now? I got my babies out about the place and they circling it because it smells good. That's what they do with the mint tree. Come on now. It's not right for us. We wasn't living off of it when we had no money and no education. We don't need to live off of that. No, that is more killing us. Go count the tombstones.
I want to invite. I've shared a link here. Just 1 second, Minister. I've shared a link here in our online chat, and I invite all of you to go. This is from the Cato Institute, and the title of this research paper is "The Effect of State Marijuana Legalizations: A 2021 Update." So this is as updated as it gets. Please go and have a look at this document that talks about jurisdictions in which marijuana has been legalized for recreational use, particularly under state laws, and they've looked at a few. And the question really is whether or not supporters and critics, because they look at both sides, this is independent research, folks, so it doesn't take a side or draw conclusions based on just whatever. It looks at the actual empirical data that's available. So it talks about the advocates who suggest that legalization reduces crime, raises tax revenue, lowers criminal justice expenditures, improves public health, increases traffic safety, and stimulates the economy, as well as critics who argue the opposite, saying that marijuana spurs and other drugs, alcohol use, increased crime, diminishes traffic safety, harms public health, and lowers teen educational achievements. Go and read this before you take a position one way or the other and whether or not you believe that marijuana should be legalized. Because a lot of us have opinions on this topic, and our opinions are not based on any fact. It's just based on your uncle who smoked marijuana his entire life, and for the record has probably never accomplished anything noteworthy, telling you that marijuana makes him smart and makes him able to have meaningful conversations. And if a really intelligent person, had a conversation with your uncle, they'd be like, what the frig is he talking about? Now, here's another question. Someone says, what about the social ills that come from using ganja? Let's deal with empirical evidence. These people are already lazy, and much less the brain development issues.
Well, Sandra, could we have a show on this? That's
a totally separate. You're absolutely right. That's a totally separate discussion.
I'm familiar with what you're talking about, Sandra. There are countries that deal with it by legalizing it and actually supplying it to people, not because they want people to be drug addicts, but because they have a different strategy of dealing with the financial element of the criminal aspect of the drug. But what I'm going to say is that this is so there's so much to be said about that it's better to have that as an individual show.
Thank you.
But I say to you that I believe that it would be better for us to legalize it. Because that's what the minister asked. He asked for opinions about that, and that's my answer. But I think we should focus on the broader issue of border security, even though this is
get back
relevant,
to the conversation at hand.
Even though this is relevant, but it requires a separate conversation to deal with the aspects that's going to come up, and they're going to take forever to talk about. And so I want to thank the person who brought up Section 119 of the Penal Code, because that is something that I was going to bring up. It is something that isn't focused on, because the people who are in power and have responsibility to do things need to be held accountable. And one way of doing that is by pointing them to these laws and saying, hey, what's up? And then you take it from there. And Mark referenced the inadequate coverage and of the sister island. That's an important point that we should not lose sight of, because as the other person didn't mention his name, but I know his voice, and I would actually like him to call me later.
And to be fair to the sister islands as well, Denny and the other caller, who haven't mentioned his name either, the sister islands are a real concern, because people who live in the sister islands will tell you that not only is cocaine, crack cocaine, whatever other forms of cocaine they're into, rampant there on the sister islands, there's little to no enforcement on the police side of them actually doing anything about it. So a lot of addicts who have an issue getting drugs here are leaving Grand Cayman, going to Cayman Brac, where there's like a free for all, and even accusations of the road works guys dabbling in the distribution of crack and cocaine on the streets in Cayman Brac, and marijuana. Everybody seems to know who's involved in it, and they almost have complete immunity because the police allegedly are not doing anything about it on the Brac. Whereas here in Grand Cayman, there's a little bit more enforcement.
Okay, Sandy, one quick thing. I know you by your computer and you love to read up on a lot of stuff. Look at Fettered Aerostat Radar System, right? It's called Feathered Aerostat Radar System. It's a radar system, and I know the former officer would know this, the U.S. Border Patrol has, that was designed by Lockheed. It does not need any man. It's just a blimp that goes up in the air. It goes about 15,000 feet, and it looks down. It's basically a radar system that U.S. Border Patrol have. They have it over Mexico. They have it over Florida. They have it over Puerto Rico. They have systems mostly around the U.S. And basically that's on man, and it goes up in the air about 15,000 feet, and it looks down. So it's a radar system that does not need a person in there at all. I mean, you just need someone to man it. Like I said, from Jamaica to Cayman Brac is roughly on a boat, and correct me if I'm wrong, Captain, maybe about 2.5 hours, depending on what go fast boat that you have, right? It's less than a drop in the bucket. Then people leave here, get on a flight, go there, pick it up, and bring it back to here. Okay? Remember, we're domestic, so it's not required to be, checked and whatever. Yeah. So they use whatever means, because they're domestic, not an international flight, to bring it in. They're not going through customs when they come here. Oh, I'm from the Bronx. Go ahead through. Okay? So it's not being tested. Before, and correct the gentleman, the former officer, if he's still an officer, I remember when they used to have dogs at the airport. And I don't know if Sandy, you remember that. They had dogs walking through the airport.
What happened to the K9 unit?
What happened to that?
I don't know. I don't see them anymore now that you mentioned it.
I mean,
no, I think they still have a K9 unit, but
what happened to them at the airport? They used to have them at the airport at any given time.
If I remember, but if I remember correctly, I think they operate behind the scenes now.
No, they don't.
Well, a part of the problem, and I'll throw my 2 cents in here. A part of the problem, a major part of the problem, and I am going to be once again honest. We have transitioned from being a proactive policing country to a reactive. That is the biggest part of the problem.
Yeah.
There is no longer any offshore patrols to the sister islands, which was something that I can speak for myself. We did on a weekly basis, several times a week. We'd be patrolling Cayman back in Little Cayman.
Yes.
Every single shift, and that doesn't happen.
Unfortunately, callers and listeners to the program, somebody just sent me another story that we had up in May of 2018, where it says boaters are calling a Marine unit to improve rescue efforts. And this was after, again, some people ran into some issues out on the water. I mean, these problems are nothing new. So, Marine safety and Marine security continues to be something that has been plaguing us for some time.
Correct me if I'm wrong too, Sandy. If you have a Coast Guard system, Coast Guard normally becomes an air and sea rescue operation. Yes, you have the RCIPS helicopter that assists the Coast Guard, but shouldn't the Coast Guard or Border Patrol have their own system? You have enough Caymanians here that are willing, or enough Caymanians. You can't throw a rock without hitting a Caymanian that does not have a PPL or a pilot's license. Send them off, get them trained, get them helicopter trained, and bring in a couple of systems where you can have a helicopter for Little Cayman, a helicopter for Cayman Brown. Now, if you have the RCIPS helicopter in Cayman, which is going to take, it takes a plane 35 to 40 minutes, and a helicopter doing 130 knots, if that, it's going to take you almost an hour to get to the sister island. Okay? By that time, do you know the amount of damage or where that person could be within an hour? Okay, so they need to have their own helicopter system, right? Because if that helicopter leaves Cayman to go to Cayman Brown to assist, then what air protection that we have over Cayman once a helicopter leaves? You know what I mean? So if that helicopter leaves to go to Cayman Rock to do an operation, with all due respect to those guys, and I'm not decommissioned that they're doing a decent job. But then if a robbery happens or a high-speed chase happens on 7 Mile Beach, where is that helicopter going to go?
Here's another listener to the program who sent in their comments via WhatsApp. This person says, good morning. Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't border security responsibility vested in 2 agencies, primarily Customs and Border Control, CBC, and the Cayman Islands Coast Guard, CICG? Ask them how many assets they have to patrol our waters and keep our borders safe. Instead, we're spending money hand over fist on Roper's regiment, a bunch of Farcico land crabs, when we could be putting more emphasis on marine security. And don't forget the Caymanian women who harbor the criminals. Remember the ones that the cops killed in Windsor Park some years ago, harbored by a Caymanian woman. Seriously, is the D word so short in supply?
Well, the irony of that is that regiment is, once they get up and going, will be responsible for enforcing for protection beyond Cayman borders. So and assisting the police with internal operations if they're requested to do so. But the internal security is still rests with the RCIPS. So they are building capacity. I know that the government made a big fuss about the regiment being used to help in the cleanup of the aftermath of hurricanes, but I'm afraid to tell you, like many things politicians say, it's far from the truth. It's designed to be a military where they have arms, purposes of defense from external threats. And they would assist the British military in those operations. That's coming. So there are things that are changing, but as it relates to what we do now, I don't think we have all of the equipment that is needed. I don't think we have the right mindset to deal with it, which was my original complaint. I don't agree with the timid way in which RCIPS deals with those matters. I think what Mark pointed out regarding the attitude of the U.S. Coast Guard is the correct one. I think that local vessels, when traveling out beyond a certain boundary, should be required to carry a beacon, so that those who are surveilling, as Mark is pointing out regarding using thermal and radar technology, that you would be able to separate who is a vessel that you know from the one that you don't know, because if there's no beacons there, I mean, you're just out there and you can look down, you can see a vessel, but who is it, or which one should I be focusing on, right? And that's you need some work in that area. But ultimately, when it comes right down to it, you need to have properly trained individuals with a serious mindset who's going to do the hard, dirty, messy work.
And what about the Caymanians who, to that person's last point, whether they're male or female or whatever, who are actually harboring these criminals who come in from overseas? I understand that this is a particular issue in the district of East End.
When you first started talking about this topic, I made a post on the Facebook under the video, and I said morning, and I said that everyone needs to decide which side of the law they're going to be on, and I said please choose wisely. Okay, because yes, it's going to be an uphill battle if the people that you're trying to protect, I put it that way, are the very ones. Yeah, that makes it very, very difficult.
Healthy Life app is now my
But you see, the reason what needs to happen is that there needs to be a proper discussion in the country and an education program to get people to understand why it's important to have law enforcement. And I'm going to say it very simply, because
and law
we're not going to have
enforcement
the
does
time.
more, they need to do more engaging with the public as well. Their version of community policing, having one or two community meetings a year just isn't cutting it.
But I'm not when I say law enforcement, I'm not referring just to the RCIPS.
No, I mean
across the board,
yes,
right?
Absolutely.
But and so the way I will summarize this aspect of it is by saying you cannot have a prosperous country without law enforcement. Not possible.
Absolutely.
And if you want to destroy your country, you can go ahead harboring criminals. You can encourage this type of behavior, and you will see this country destroyed faster than you can blink your eyes.
And I agree with you, Danny. And here's the other iron into this. Every movie that you watch and every boat series you see or any boat shows you have, Cayman Islands is on the back of every boat or every flag. You see movies and you see Cayman Islands flag. Why is it we're the biggest boat register in the world, but yet the locals does not register their own boats?
It's a money thing. That's a money thing.
The other thing is, like what I was pointing out to Denny, is that each person has a beacon, just like how an aircraft will have their box on there that when that aircraft goes out, you could be able to dictate which aircraft. If Denny goes on his boat is named Low Rider. When Denny goes out, I could see his boat saying Low Rider.
Low Rider, yes.
And if anything happens and Denny calls in on his phone. I didn't mean to put it like that, Denny. I'm sorry.
It would be more like polymer.
Okay, there we go. But if Denny calls in, or Denny's supposed to go fishing, he's supposed to return back at 3 o'clock, and Denny's not returning. His wife or somebody tries to call Denny, can't get in contact. We could see his boat on the radar, and if it's just sitting there or it's moving or whatever the case may be, and could go and rescue them. Like I said, I've lost a very good friend of mine at sea. The 5 that went missing was a very close friend of mine. Went missing at sea, and you had so many people like the chicken with a head grow off, trying to figure out where this person are, right? How many boats has went missing or stolen from the Cayman Islands and end up in other countries and they have not been found, right? And I do recall several years ago, Red Sails, they intervened that boat, but Red Sail had their sailboat, they catamaran, went missing. When they went to look for it the next morning, luckily enough, they found it, right? But that's one of the few. And I've known a lot of Caymanians who boats went, i.e. missing, and they end up in other jurisdictions and end up causing more havoc in other jurisdictions.
Well, we saw the one that went to Honduras.
Yeah, and I didn't want to go down to that road, but there's no protection.
Yeah.
There's none.
All right, callers, let me have you leave me there. I do want to move on to a couple other topics. This is Monday Rewind, so we want to get to talk about the shooting that happened of the residents as well. So thanks to both of you. Have a wonderful day. I think everybody else has left the call, but thanks so much for the participation.
Not a problem.
All right. All right, folks. Of course, the number, we've had a lot of calls today, 936-2626 is the telephone number, but we also had over the weekend a shooting at a residence. You know, this one's a little bit crazy, but what we've heard is essentially a house was shot at in the district of Prospect as a result of, morning caller.
Yeah, I got cut off. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, we were actually just switching now to talk about the Prospect shooting. So I didn't know if you
Oh,
wanted
okay.
to.
Sorry. Okay, continue. I'll talk later on.
Okay, dear. All righty.
Have a good day.
You too. All right, folks. So the Prospect situation is basically a residence was shot at in the district of Prospect. And our sources have revealed that what this is all about is that someone went to a party. Obviously, more than one person went to the party. The Street Vibes party that they had down by an area called the Pinnacle, which is right off of North Sound Road. Oh gosh, what is that area called? There's a you guys know where this is? This is close to the car wash, but on the other side. You know where I'm talking about. Down there, where Reflections used to have their store. Now it's some other store. I don't know. But anyway, there's a party down there. And I guess they have these little parties in parking lots or whatever. I don't know how they're doing it. But so they had this party called the Street Vibes party down by those warehouses and stuff in that area. And apparently someone's vehicle got damaged at this Street Vibes party, which led to guns being pulled out at the time that was discovered towards the end of the event. Now, the ironic thing about this is apparently the what's the police unit called? The SG.
The firearms unit is what you're talking about?
It's not FRU, but it's the other one, something SG. But you know, they carry firearms and whatever as well, right?
Yeah.
So they went rolling through afterwards, because I guess they probably get a list of all the parties that are happening, and you know, they're probably told just kind of drive through. But they didn't realize that at the time that they were driving through, people had actually pulled out weapons. Because they didn't actually get out of their vehicle and talk to anybody and mingle. And this is when I talk about USG. Thank you, Damien. When I talk about community policing, it's not always staying in your car. Because they had no one called the police, apparently. No one called 911. So they were just kind of doing a drive about. And they drove through the vicinity at that particular time, not realizing that something was actually popping off. And people actually went to their cars, took out a weapon, and was like, who kicked in my car? Who broke my car window? I'm about to shoot somebody. So then that carried over, the overflow from that angry situation meant that someone who lives in Prospect, who again, the people must think had something to do with the vandalizing of the vehicle, they actually had a house shot at that they live in. What a hot mess. Now, residents in the area said that they heard gunshots around 4:30 in the morning. The police said that they didn't receive the report until about, I think they said like 6:30 or whatever, that they actually received reports of the incident. So kind of bizarre. I guess the police need to now figure out for themselves, because this is what we're hearing on the street, how the two situations are connected, because their sources are saying they're very much connected, because the young man who lives in that house is, known to have a certain reputation. And so these guys were trying to send a message, and the police said that they didn't receive a call until after 6:30 a.m. Officers responded to a report of shots fired. But again, residents in the area said that they heard shots fired from around 4:50 a.m. So I don't know what would have taken almost 2 hours if the residents waited to call the police. Maybe they wanted to keep sleeping. And they were like, we'll deal with it once the sun comes up. I'm not really sure. But this is kind of a crazy situation. Now, I noticed with interest that the people on Facebook, right, were more concerned about the use of the term resident versus resident. And some of y'all were really confused. And I don't know if English is not your first language, or you just don't know the difference between the two words, because there's some implying that, oh, how does a residence get shot at with no injuries? Well, residence is the physical building, not the person. And that's what the initial post said, was that there was a residence that was shot at, right? Meaning the house, and there were no injuries reported, so that the bullets did not actually hit anyone. But I saw a lot of comments, and you know what I find so peculiar, Jared? People really minor or major in the minor on social media. Like the discussions that they have boggle my mind, because it demonstrates, this was, it says CMR exclusive, residents on Mangrove Drive Prospect got shot at overnight. Police on the scene this morning conducting the investigations, no injuries reported. And 62 comments, and you had all these people obsessing about whether or not we use the correct word, which we did. It says residence, right? And they're obsessing about, well, how can a resident not be injured? I'm like, the last time I looked it up, a house doesn't bleed, and the house doesn't have feelings. So yeah, I don't really understand what y'all were going on and on about, but I think y'all misread the word or didn't know that there's a difference between residence.
Yeah,
and
they probably
resident.
thought residents as the person or
I
individual
know.
that
So
got
Claire
shot at,
said,
but
Claire had me laughing. Claire Delion said, wait a minute. How can someone get shot and no injuries reported? What do you mean shot at? Well, we didn't say shot at. We said they were shot at. So I don't know what she meant by that. But again, it's the physical building. That's what residents mean. So I mean, I thought it was pretty clear. But anyway, that seems to have been the focus. To me, the focus would be like, oh my God, we live in an island that's supposed to be relatively peaceful, and we have people who are shooting at a structure, a physical structure, on a Saturday morning. And if you live in Prospect, that could have been a stray bullet that could have hit someone. And that should have really been your concern, instead of hyper focusing on the word residence versus resident. And then your hyper focus turns out to have been completely incorrect in any event. Like it's just absolutely crazy. The other thing I noticed with interest over the weekend, in terms of the social media comments, Jared, is that someone also talked about this young man. His name is Jordan, who's been asked to contact a Mr. Gordon urgently about a matter. There are people in here who are like, oh, well, why post this up? Leave little Jordan alone. He's a Caymanian, father, son, brother, uncle, blah, blah, blah. This is going to hurt his chances for the future for reason no one knows or needs to know. And that line of thinking, and I'm really surprised at how many people liked that, is exactly what is wrong with Cayman society. I keep saying, go and have a look at the Yolanda Ford report. We have created our own homegrown criminals.
Yes.
Because we do not want to hold people accountable. So when you give me some BS response, y'all don't know what Jordan has done. And this post is trying to give Jordan an opportunity to say, yo, Jordan, go sort out your business, right? So that you don't have to have your business all over CMR. Your first response is, oh, I don't even care what Jordan has done. It doesn't matter. Don't put his business out there because he's somebody's father, son, uncle. Yes, every single criminal in the Cayman Islands belongs to somebody, right? They are somebody's family. That's not the point. The point is you do not allow people just because they're family to somebody or because they're somebody's child to just go around breaking the law and doing whatever the heck that they want just because, oh, they're a Caymanian and they're a father, they're a son, they're a brother, they're uncle. If we use that approach, folks, which we have been using that approach, unfortunately, that is why we are encouraging criminality and building our own criminals right here in this jurisdiction. Caller, good afternoon.
Sandy, good morning. I just want to say one quick thing because I know I don't want to be bombarding your show, but this is the idea that I should suggest to the RCIPS or to you to throw out. These places that having these big extra events that they're doing, these parties or whatever that's going on, these after parties that they're selling tickets, they're selling tickets, they're selling alcohol, they're doing all of this. They should apply. Just like how when you having a street party downtown, you have to apply to have the road closed off or whatever. They should be able to apply to the RCIPS or whoever it may be to get permission to have these after parties. Number one, once they do this application, how much people are expecting to have there? Okay, I'm expecting to sell 300 tickets. Okay, for every 20 passengers, for every 50 people, you must have this amount of security. Which company you're going to be using, so we could call and confirm that you're using that security company. It's even if it's a $50 admission or application, whatever. Then you need to go to the next rest of the neighbors and have them to sign that you're having this party and it's going to be turned off by this amount of time. Has to be agreed by a certain amount. You have to have a certain amount of people to agree that you're having this party, right? That will eliminate. You know that for sure they have security there. You need to know the name of the promoter. They have to have a contact with them at any time to anything pop off. 911 could call the promoter directly and say, listen, when we call you, you need to answer your phone. All right. So they will be able to contact the promoter at any given time. They'll be able to know that there's a security company on hand, not just a Joe Blow there, a proper security company that confirm and reconfirm and cross-check. All right. And knowing that once you have an event, because that applies to everybody else. If you having a car race at the the old Camel track, you had to let the EMT know, the fire department know, this and that and whatever. They needed to know just in case anything happens, right? They have to have security. Nightclub has to have security. So if you're gonna have an after night party where you're gonna be gaining value for your money, you're gonna be selling tickets and having boat cruises with no security on board or this and that, whatever, you need to have protection, right? So at least if anything happens, that security is not going to put his life online, but he could be able to call in and say, listen, this is what's going on, all right? The RCIPS would know, number one, okay, you're going to have this event that's going off at Miss Sandy's yard. We're going to make a circle through on a regular basis because she expects to have 300 people there. Okay, we got to make sure that she has security there. We got to walk through and say, hey, where's your security at? We got to double check, cross check. Security is here. Everything is okay. Go to the bar. Everything is okay. You need to have, if they're going to be selling liquor, temporary liquor license. It's after party. So there's a fee for that as well. Okay, so therefore, you know that. And then if you have to, when these people having events in Cayman and they're having at Lion Center, they have to have a certain type of insurance. Listen, you're going to need to, if anybody gets hurt at your event, just let you know, you paying their hospital bill. Okay? And that's just my sitting on common sense. But we know that crap ain't common. Government will know that they'll have something regularized or something will be accounted for. These people know that stuff will be accounted for. Listen, if anything could pop off, then they know that if you have this temporary event license and you come back to me and Sandy comes back to me, we know that we had reports of guns being at your event. I don't know if we can approve it this time because you had too much crap going on in the last 6 events. No. You understand?
Yeah, I think the problem is a lot of these people, unfortunately, are having events and they don't do anything. They don't do any sort of due diligence, no security, nothing. And a lot of these events, if they did any of that, probably wouldn't even be permitted.
No, because Sandy, to be honest with you, they can post it. You can see it on Facebook. You go on Facebook. You're on Facebook. You can see it on Facebook, on TikTok when they posting their events. They have the time to post their events, boat cruises. They put their signs up on the side of the wall, on the side of the road, stuff like that. What do you call it again? The Cayman Protect, the thing that for the internet. I used to call it FCC in the States, but we call it the Data Protection whatever. You should not be able to post anything to advertise anything without a license. It's advertising to gain profit.
Yeah, well, I mean,
You're
listen,
gaining profit.
these are events, and most of these people do not even have, they fancy themselves promoters in the dance hall community. Not to pick on them, but they're the ones who are having an event every single weekend, and 99.9% of them do not have a license for that.
Okay, but yet, if I decide to have an event, the hoops that I have to go through to have an event, okay, you should be able to. If you're gonna have a promoter, if you're gonna promote an event, go through the proper promote. You have all these Caymanians that does promotions. Go through them. They will make sure that everything is crossed because their reputation's at hold. If something goes wrong, all you have to do with all due respect is jump on a flight and go back home. With you have someone like yourself, if you're, for an example, Sandy, you're a promoter. I'm going to come to Miss Sandy and say, listen, this is my idea. I want to promote this, blah, blah, blah. Okay, you got this? Yes, you got this. I'm going to use my license. This is what you're going to do. I'm going to get paid a certain amount.
Oh, caller, we gotta come off the radio.
Okay,
Radio
go ahead.
Folks, thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Cold Hard Truth on Bobo 89.1 FM. Cayman's #1 talk show is live weekdays from 7:30 a.m. Never miss an episode again. Watch anytime on CMR's Facebook and YouTube channels for the latest show episodes. Don't forget to follow us online on our social media channels and visit CaymanMarlRoad.com for all the latest news and community happenings.
All right, folks. So we had to say goodbye to our Bobo listeners. So we've just received a photo from a listener to the program who has sending this photo to us from Jamaica, who said, this is the other man who's wanted. Here's a photo of him. So once again, why haven't the police not released the photo? Jared, why haven't the police released the photo? How is it the CMR getting a photo before the police?
They have protocols to follow. Well, I don't mean to make joke or live that. I have a lot to say, and it all can't be said within the short space of time. So, my issues with RCIPS and the head of department that runs that place. It's unbecoming, and it's not sticking to our reputation as a destiny that really.
And to this caller's point, I think those are all good suggestions. And unfortunately,
it's
Damien
too much work. You know that too much work.
No. Damien is saying, if it's not broken, don't fix it. But how are we going to fix it? Because what happens is we wait until it's out of control.
After the fact.
Caller, we wait now until every weekend there's like 3 or 4 of these events that are happening. And now we're going to try and rein it in and say, you need to be following the law. You need to have a business license because you are a promoter and you're putting on events that requires a business license. And in order to have a business license, you need to be submitting certain things to DCFF as to why you should even be issued a business license. I agree with the caller that it needs to be regulated. My only question is, why hasn't it been done all this time?
It's the enforcement, Sandy. On the immigration or work, if we had enforcement officers running by those events and saying who the promoter is, show me a work permit. Boom, boom.
Yeah, well,
That person would
they
be
could shut him
breaching.
down.
That person would have been breaching
And you know
everything
what?
They could
that
shut him
brother
down during COVID.
suggested.
So
And
why
and
can't they
and
shut him
Jared
down now?
and Jared, here's the other thing, Miss Sandy. You want to see the enforcement? Try to add on a piece onto your house and tell them that you're gonna rent it out and see how quick you get enforced. Right? The thing is, if you say it is not, fix it. If it's not broken, don't fix it. Someone call it in. But if that person lose their son or their daughter at that event, then you're gonna hear a different problem.
100%.
Okay, you don't wait until you lose a family member until you decide to fix it. Like I said, we in Cayman are proactive and we are reactive instead of proactive, and that's one of the things. Oh well, this is broken, so let's fix it now. By the time you realize, you might be driving your car, Sandy, and oh well, nothing's wrong with it, and all of a sudden your hit gasket blow because you didn't car and get it serviced. How much is it going to cost you to fix it? And not just cost you, cost us, the taxpayers, because yes, we are taxpaying. How much is it going to cost us to fix a simple problem? Okay? And that's the thing. We sit down and wait, and I'm sorry to say, but we sit down and wait until it's broken, then decide to fix it, then bitch and complain, sorry for my language, then complain that our gas prices going up and everything else is going up because government has to fix something. Okay? And whoever sits down and make it breaking it and broken without fixing it, they should be held accountable. We should not have to pay for nothing. Okay? If you sit down there and make all this happen and there's no accountability, then who's gonna pay for it? Right? Oh well, just leave it, make it broke. Okay, man, just fix it. Don't worry about them. Let them fix it. And when they fix it, we'll just tax them a little bit more. What else they do?
And again,
They're gonna go to Miami.
the sad thing is with a lot of these events, it's not Caymanians who are putting those events on. So it's not even Caymanians who are benefiting.
If a Caymanian put on an event, and I will tell you this, and I have no problem, anybody knows me. If a Caymanian put on an event, and I've seen Caymanians put on an event, and the amount of crap that they go through just to put on an event, right? The amount of headaches they go through, they don't put on events anymore, right? Because of that same situation. But anyone who could plaster a poster, Photoshop someone a poster off of Petrus and put it up there and say, topless boat cruise or lingerie boat cruise, and this is not boat cruise. And then you have 150 people on a boat.
None of them
and
can
only
swim.
3 people and only 3 people on that boat are rescue swimmers. 3 life vests. There's no rescue swimmers on board. And whoever's there's rescue and a boat crew member that's there rescue. They're not manning the area, because when you have a boat like that, and I'm telling you as a former worker at Beach Club, when we used to have boat cruises, we had to have, let me see, that boat holds 300, so we had to have 4 on top, 4 below, and 4 on the bottom. So we had 2 guys on each side in the aft, 2 in the bow, and we had to see at each other at any given time. We had a life vest in our hand, a life ring in our hand, and a radio beside us. And our captain will call in and say, radio check, number 1, how you doing? Good, everything's clear. Nobody could be able to hang out with a bow. On the top deck, you couldn't bring no alcohol, no rum, no bottles or anything on the top deck. The only place we were allowed to have alcohol bottles were on the mid deck. If you're going upstairs, you had to put in a cup. You had someone in the stairwell that when you start coming out with a bottle, they send you back down. Right? And this is what we used to do. Nowadays, you can run up and down on that boat with alcohol and champagne bottles and everything else, and nobody happened. The worst thing that you can have on a boat is glass. Right? Look at the poor gentleman that went off the boat. No one knew that he went off the boat, and they found up in the North Sound.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And they were coming in at night. Number 1, you coming in at night, you turn off the music. From the time you start heading back to port, music turned down, you have lights on at all time, and everybody's making a circle to check in. Right? But of course, the crew members see a couple of girls with the miniskirts and G-strings, they just dropped it. Somebody jump off the boat, that's it. Okay? And that's the thing. How many people did they have a rescue or certified rescue divers? How many people on those boats are CPR trained? How many boats has defibrillators on it?
Yep. No, we're gonna wait until something happens, and
Okay.
then a boat
Every
full
one of
of
those
all those
boats that
people
have
goes down.
every one of those boats supposed to have a defib on there, pocket mask. Everyone's supposed to be able to be certified CPR trained. Okay, and I don't mean about certified CPR. I mean in a rescue diver. Meaning a rescue diver, you supposed to be able to go to your rescue diving course or a rescue swimmer course. You jump into the water, and you'll be able to swim with your fully clothed on, which is not easy because I've done it, right? Be able to pull someone at least 50 yards on holding them and be able to do rescue swimming. Not to say, oh, I could jump in the water, give them a life ring. What happens if you don't have a life ring? You have to wait for a life ring? You're supposed to be able to jump into water, swim out to the person, right? And I could bet anyone this is something I could do because this is something that I just got certification on, right? You could swim out fully clothed, grab a person, pull them back in, and swim on your back at least 50 yards. No one's going to do that. And we're not going to stop until we lose our sister or brother or daughter or son. Each one of my kids has to learn to swim. And each one of my kids can swim. My son, he's a rescue swimmer. My daughter is going to be certified diving soon.
All right, my dear.
Right?
Leave us
So
there.
just to leave it with that, Sandy. Have a good evening.
Okay, dear. All righty. All right, folks. What a hot mess. Looks like a lot of things need to be shaped up in this country. The thing about it is, when people are making recommendations, I think, to the RCIPS, I'm hoping that they're actually paying attention and that they take heed, because forewarned is what? How does the saying go, Jared? Forewarned is forearmed.
Something like that.
So, this is your opportunity now to start thinking about how you can shape up, some of these aspects of slackness that's happening in our community. And this is one that is
Atrocious.
obvious. This caller has highlighted it on the show this morning. And so, take it and run with it. Do something about it before one of these incidents ends up costing someone their life. Fix it. I mean, I don't know what else to say. George says to be warned is to be forearmed. I thought there was another way to say it. Forewarned is forearmed. There's a specific way that it's said. But anyway, in other words, they have ample warning now to try to do something about it. I think the fact that USG, the support group there, was actually driving through and was still unaware that there was an incident happening in that moment in time is kind of shocking and unbelievable at the same time.
I'm not surprised.
Anyway, folks, thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of The Cold Hard Truth. This was your Monday Rewind edition. So tomorrow, Health City's taking their little summer break. So they're going to be off for a couple months. They come back in September. So whilst they're on hiatus, of course, we have tons of topics to talk about. One of the things that we didn't really get to discuss was the monkeypox escape in Jamaica. This is a very, very interesting case, and it talks a lot about, health and security, even in Jamaica, for someone to be able to get out of a hospital. Now he's under guard. So we'll talk about that situation and break that down a little bit for tomorrow's show. And, we have lots more that's going to be on the discussion. So we'll see you guys tomorrow. Please have a safe day, folks. Every single day, we have to commit ourselves to just doing the right thing and following the law and being law-abiding citizens as much as we can be, because we are part of the problem as much as we are part of the solution. There's so many of our people who are either turning a blind eye or they're actively participating in a lot of the activity that is, fueling criminality here in the Cayman Islands. And we really have to put our foot down and put a stop to it. So here's your news break with Kevin Watler. Forgot to play it earlier. Not really forgot, but I was so busy. So here it is, in case you've been missing any news headlines. Have a fantastic day, guys.
Hello, I'm Kevin Watler in for Misha Allinger. You're watching the CMR Daily Buzz. A man wanted for murder in Jamaica was arrested here in Cayman by police. Officers arrested 30-year-old Rudolph Armando Shaw in the vicinity of Seymour Road in Georgetown. Authorities in Jamaica have been notified, and he has since been formally processed and will be handed over to the Customs and Border Control. During the operation, Firearms Response Unit officers approached a vehicle with two occupants, one of whom was the wanted man. The occupants of the vehicle attempted to evade the police and rammed into the police vehicle. Armed officers were able to arrest the wanted man, but the other person escaped on foot. Police say the man that escaped is approximately 5'9", of slim build and dark complexion with short hair. He was wearing blue jeans and a white sleeveless shirt. Police are investigating a shooting incident that took place in Prospect early Saturday morning. CMR sources shared that it may be linked to a young man who resides at the residence and was involved in an altercation at the Ultimate Dancehall Street Vibes event, which took place at the Pinnacle off Sound Road in Georgetown. The RCIPS confirmed officers responded to a report of shots fired at an address on Mangrove Avenue, where the occupant of a residence returned home to discover that the residence had received damage from what appears to have been caused by gunshots. Police are investigating a burglary of a jewelry store where thieves made off with a large sum of jewelry. Just after midnight Friday, the 911 Communications Center dispatched officers to an alarm report at a jewelry store on Goring Avenue. When police arrived, they found that the store had been broken into. The thieves gained entry through the front entrance, smashing the front doors, and several glass cases containing jewelry within the store were broken into. They made off with a large sum of jewelry. However, the specific items that were taken are still being determined. A man has been hospitalized after he was attacked with a machete during a burglary early Thursday morning. Police responded to an address off Birch Tree Hill Road in West Bay, where an aggravated burglary and assault took place. According to police, a man had broken into the residence while carrying a machete and attacked one of the occupants within the home. He then fled the scene. The suspect and the occupants are known to each other. The victim received serious injuries to his arm and foot. He was transported to the Cayman Islands Hospital for treatment, where he remains in the hospital. If you have any information that could assist police solve any crime, anonymous tips can be provided directly to the Royal Cayman Islands Police Service via their confidential tip line at 949-7777 or 911 if it's an emergency. A report on social media and by TMZ that actor Armie Hammer was working as a concierge at a Cayman hotel is false. The rumor started with a tweet showcasing a flyer from Moritz Resort in Grand Cayman. However, the flyer was a prank orchestrated by a member of the hotel staff. Hammer has been keeping a low profile after a series of sexual abuse allegations against him. His estranged wife and children had been living in the Cayman Islands since the COVID-19 pandemic, and with the actor visiting on several occasions. Former Governor Michael John Edward Gore, who served as governor of the Cayman Islands from 1992 to 1995, has died. Mr. Gore was the governor when Her Majesty the Queen visited the Cayman Islands in 1994. As a keen birder, he was instrumental in securing the land which is now Governor Michael Gore's bird sanctuary in Spots Newlands, which is owned by the National Trust for the Cayman Islands and serves as an urban oasis for waterfowl and other birds. He also opened the boardwalk at Tarpon Lake on Little Cayman in 1995. More information on each of these stories can be found at caymanmallroad.com. Now for your CMR weather update. It's brought to you by WG Charters. Sunrise at 5:54. Lots of clouds today. It will heat up to the high 80s. Winds light east at 5 to 10 miles per hour. The sun sets at 7:07. Tonight cools to the low 80s. High tides at 6:49 a.m. and 1:43 p.m. and the low tides at 2:03 a.m. and 1:43 p.m. Looking forward, similar weather conditions are expected. It's summertime, so hot days and warm nights with brief scattered showers. CMR weather updates are brought to you by WG Charters. They offer private boat trips for a great price, so we encourage you to support them. Thanks for watching the Daily Buzz. Please stay safe and God bless.